Looking for the best astrology guidance? You can enjoy an entire month of personalized astrology services for just $3.99. At Sirius Joy, we pride ourselves on providing astrology enthusiasts with exactly what they're looking for. Daily personalized inspiration that speaks directly to the heart. Sign up today and you'll receive personalized messages straight to your phone, 7 days a week. And that's just half of it. You'll also get access to our exclusive members-only site with tons of amazing features. Experience the most accurate astrology service on the web at SiriusJoy.com.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to Namaste Today Live. I am Sensei Christopher Witecki, psychic astrologer and spiritual service to you. I'm happy to sing the song that it's Friday, it's Fun Day Friday. And we have our full audience here today. We are streaming live right now to several platforms at the same time. And we're bringing all these chats into one unified super chat, which is super cool. We're live right now on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, of course, where a lot of our fans are, and even LinkedIn, for those of you who are too busy searching resumes and not in the mood to get some Zodiac weather. We're coming to you today. We are well into the season of Leo right now. I want to say hi to people who are coming into our chat. Hello, Ava. Hello, Experimental Elemental. I love that. Hello, Valerie. Hello, Jill Louise. So nice to see you. Hello, Gloria. Hello, Clarissa. So nice to see you. Everyone, tell us in the chat where you're streaming from and where you're chatting from. We would love to actually find out where all of our subscribers and viewers are in the world. So let us know where you're coming from today. Aliana, hello. That's great to see Aliana because she's actually going to be our guest. We have a very special show today. We are, of course, streaming live, so we're going to go about things as best we can. We're going to talk about the sun in Leo and where we are. We have a powerful new moon this week that I think is a turning point to our life. In fact, I believe this is the most powerful week of August. This is the most important episode for you to watch. We're going to go through the Zodiac weather for everybody. We're going to do the tea time with all 12 signs. And then at the end of this show, we have a new special treat, our new interview segment called Astro Mingle, where we will interview today Aliana. We'll talk more about her here at the end of the show, where we're going to bring on a light worker or someone that works in the light work industry and wrap the last half hour of the show with this interview. So it's going to be great. We are rolling with the punches here because we are new to this live streaming, so we appreciate your patience. And we do have chat monitors as well. So if you see a problem or have an issue, just go into the chat and report. Our monitor will feed it back in here to the studio and let us know how we're doing. So with that, we have a compelling week ahead. I think the best way to kick off this day is to go to our Zodiac weather, where we find out our 7-day mood forecast. Let's roll the weather. Your 5-day weekday moodcast. On Monday, it's sunny and excited. Step 21 means it starts to get fun. Jupiter rules the day, and we are on countdown to the new moon as the moon moves into Leo. On this day, you are fostering a new belief about your golden egg project, and with Venus trining Chiron, you may have a transition in how to go about it. On Tuesday, it's sunny and mystical. Step 22 means you are between timelines and different dimensions. It's now time to elevate your future to a higher perspective. The sun squares Uranus, which means you may also have a change in future plans. And it's Love Fest Day, the most loving day of the month. Tell all your friends that you love them. On Wednesday, it's sunny and delighted. Step 23 means Mercury and your mind rule the day. It's also the new moon in Leo, so you are planting seeds to a new vision for your future. And with Mars trine Uranus, your ego is going to get it done. On Thursday, it's sunny and teetering, back and forth that is. Step 24 means Venus rules the day, so your heart is opening up to accept the future. But with the sun conjoining Black Moon Lilith, you're also opening up to accept certain fears you have about the future. The moon in Virgo makes things quite real. Then on Friday, it's cloudy and praying. Step 25 means you are logged into your highest self. This is a day of spirituality and true love. You're connecting to your spiritual mission and connecting that to the practicality of daily earthly dreams. And we are back. Yay. That is actually rolling perfectly today. I'm so excited. I want to point out, if you're not familiar, for all those who watch us on all these different social media platforms that I have a special service called Sirius Joy. This is where we get really deep and serious about our joy. And I want to put it out there before we get into the show because I always forget to promote my own service. But this is a daily service where we text message or email you 5 to 7 times a day based on your personal astrology. And right now we have a whole team of practitioners that are focusing on what we call the 40 days of self-love. And that concept is that if you hold an intention for the full 40 days, you will manifest it at 11 degrees Virgo-ish. That's what we found from our own research. And we've had people who have manifested a mortgage to their house, the love of their life, in some cases, even getting pregnant, knock on wood. But I know that's for everyone a sensitive topic. But nonetheless, a little spiritual help does not hurt. We also have other practitioners. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. I'll promote it, but it's at SiriusJoy.com. It's just $3.99 for the first 30 days, and you can cancel right when you subscribe. So you don't have to worry about being charged if you don't want to be charged. We have a fantastic customer service department if you have any issues, and we have a fantastic team. We have a metaphysical minister named Robbie Hunt. We have a sound healer named Kristen Ryder. We have an angel intuitive named Devin Dewar. And we have a fantastic lead writer, Heather Exposito. All of us as a team here to help you reach your joy. So if you like to get serious about your joy, give it a try. Come on down to SiriusJoy.com. Again, just $3.99. And I'll go into greater detail about the shows we have coming at the very end of the show. So stay tuned to the end of the show to find out more. And with that, I think it's time now to roll into our planets and transits and talk about the week. Well, my friends, this is one of the most exciting times I've ever experienced in astrology because the planets really are conspiring. That's the best word to say, conspiring for our happiness right now. We are this week, we're entering into chapter 3 of the sun in Leo. And if you're not familiar with the decans all unfold sort of the focus of our spiritual intention. So the first decan of any transit is our own relationship to ourself and our inner life. The second decan, 10 days, is our interaction with daily life. And in Leo, that had to do with our creative projects, bringing joy into our daily life, work-life balance in these teen degrees to find our joy as well as our work that we have in a given week. And for many, the desire for love. So the teen degrees is where a lot of the work happens. But now in the 20s and above, which is what we're reaching to this weekend, we go from 19 to 20, we now focus on the future. And that, I think, is the spiritual point of this year's Sun in Leo transit, is that we are stepping away from a timeline that we are on to a timeline we were born to live. And by timeline, I mean your own fate and destiny. I believe, so, let's talk a little mystical for just a moment here, shall we? I believe what fate and destiny is basically the plans you made in heaven before you were born. And I don't know if you've ever heard any stories about, past life, what's the word I'm looking for? Regeneration, where you go back and you look at past lives, or people go into hypnosis and they look at the transition between lifetimes, or near-death experiences is another story. You always hear in these near-death experience stories or in these hypnotherapy stories where people have gone back into their subconscious that in heaven, in the in-between life, we review the life we've just lived, and then we make plans for the life we want to live. And to me, that's what fate and destiny is. Fate and destiny is you planned in heaven to be able to pull something off in this given lifetime. But I also believe that we have free will, whether or not we actually, thank you, regression. That was the word I was looking for. Experimental, elemental. Thank you very much. Regression. That we ultimately have free will once we get down here. So if we don't move forward on those hunches, and actually follow through with what our deeper self is telling us, what our intuition is telling us, what our heart is telling us, then we can easily swerve off the course of our fate and destiny, and then find ourselves in heaven the next time, trying to plan it all over again. Well, I believe that anyone who's alive right now has a collective conscious unified fate, that anyone who came to Earth right now came knowing full well that this was a magical moment for planet Earth in the sense that we have the opportunity, and again, it's an opportunity for ascension to raise our vibration to a higher level of experience. And in the light worker community, we tend to call this enlightenment or ascension. That's a popular term as well. But ultimately, there's this idea of 5D, that we have this fifth dimension that we can reach, where we're sort of in between worlds, and that there's more to life than this 3D physical reality. Well, it is destined, according to the planets, that in this lifetime, the Earth will make the turn towards the age of Aquarius, as it's been called, or the turn towards enlightenment, or the turn towards the fifth dimension, and begin to ascend out of lifetimes of fight or flight and survival, and rise up into a lifetime of thrival, of what we call Sirius Joy. Now, with that context said, looking at the planets, to me, it appears that we are currently now planning energetically for how our own individual role will play out in this ascension moment. And like free will, it's up to us. I'm not sure, whether or not Earth will graduate and move towards utopia and enlightenment, or if Earth will stay stuck and fall into a dystopia. If you look at all the politics and the power plays and the potential wars and the current wars going on, one could argue it could go either way. But I'll tell you this, the planets are absolutely conspiring for it to be love and joy. And I can tell that from everything that's going on as far as the planet's influence. Now, since we're on this topic, let's talk planetary influence for just a moment. A lot of people wonder, how does astrology work? Well, I believe astrology is sort of the conscious weather of our time. That just like you might have a sunny day or a cold day or a snowy day here on Earth, that weather doesn't control me. That doesn't control me that it's raining. It doesn't control me that it's sunny outside or that it's hot outside. But it does influence me. It influences me to, maybe prevent going outside to do something, or maybe it changes my path and what my strategy is on a given day. And so the literal physical weather is highly influential. Yes, it can prevent us from doing things, and it also can promote us to do things as well. If it's a bright, beautiful, sunny day, we might have a pep in our step. We might want to go out and play. We might call up someone we love. Well, astrology is the same way, basically. The study of astrology is that there are conscious waves that are hitting the Earth, much like heat waves or cold waves in physical weather. And these conscious waves are created by outer planets that are circling around the Earth, or at least that's how it appears. They're circling around the sun, but here on an Earth-centric reality, they circle around us and they create conscious waves. And human beings are bouncing up and down in these waves. And again, just like the physical weather, you're reacting to the waves. They're not controlling your free will or taking over your ability to make decisions, but they certainly are influencing our decisions. They may make it easier or tougher, or sometimes both, sometimes easy in one ways and tough in the others. Well, given that backstory that is provided, this is a magical moment, because examining the waves of the planets, everything I see is promoting for us to, end corruption of power, represented by Pluto and Capricorn. So the end of corruption and power, and moving to a new sort of power. The last time we had this wave of ending corruption and power was the 1700s, particularly the late 1700s, and the birth of democracy here in the United States and the world somewhat thereafter. So we've seen that this actually happens. There is a change of power when Pluto hits into Capricorn. This is the first time since the American Revolution that we've had Pluto in Capricorn. So the United States is one Pluto year old, basically, as of last year, in Pluto return. Another big theme going on, of course, is us coming into our hearts and us facing fears about our hearts and what we fear to create. So we're being encouraged to follow our hearts in this new energetic wave. With Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, we're being encouraged to end our karmic cycles with ourselves and surrender to a higher karmic cycle. So big story in the big picture of things, the zodiac weather, the weather of the planets, the weather of the cosmos is all promoting ascension, the transformation of power, and coming into one's heart and one's personal power and personal dreams. So in that context now, let's funnel it down to where we are in Leo. Leo this season, with Venus retrograde and the sun and black moon moving forward in Leo, we are in this season being encouraged to detach from the heartfelt investments that do not serve us anymore, to go ahead and give up on what's not taking off in our life. So if you've been trying to write that book for 20 years and your heart's just not in it, maybe your heart's not in it. Like maybe that's not what your destiny is. If you can't find the inspiration in your heart for 20 years, perhaps you're not ready, or perhaps you weren't ready until now. I can't jump inside of you and read what your heart is telling you, but I can tell you that it's time to follow your heart. So far in this Leo transit, we have focused on self-love in the first decan, the first 10 degrees of Leo. Then the last 10 degrees, we have focused on our daily love, our daily life-work balance, our daily ability for joy. And this week, we now move to step 20 to 29, Leo. Well, to this week, it'll actually be step 19 to 25, to be specific. And what I coined this week's title is A New Vision for the Future. So this is the week where you will likely lock down a new creative vision for what I call your Sirius Joy, or your golden egg project, which is the dream of a lifetime you've always wanted to manifest, or your golden age, where everything is just all age of Aquarius, utopia sort of feeling. This is the week where everyone will see the vision and commit to the vision, hopefully commit to the vision. We'll talk about that. I'm going to encourage you to. Technically, we commit to the version next Saturn day, which is interesting because it's a Saturn ruled day, literally next Saturday. But this is the week where we iron out and find that new vision. In the same sense, my subtitle for this week is Working Through the Logistics. And that is represented by Mars and Mercury in Virgo, that we're not just dreaming and, sitting on a cliff watching the sunset, playing the guitar. We're actually looking at the research necessary. We're looking at the costs necessary. We're looking through the details that have to be faced in order to do this. And because Mercury's in shadow, this will be something that we go through more than once, basically. We're going to think through those logistics more than once. And the key question to ask yourself this week, and this is where you write down notes. If you take notes in my show, this is what I recommend, is just these basic fundamentals of the week. It's a new vision for the future. We're working through our logistics. And the key question is, how am I transforming my world? And this is a very important ingredient, folks, because, and I'll speak to this when I speak to the planets directly, but particularly this week, we are being called to innovate and take things higher. This is not your grandma's earth. This is not your parents' earth. This is the new potential. And we already see this innovation happening in our world with technology. That's the obvious place. We have new inventions. It makes things easier. We're seeing much transformation with inventions. But if you are planning to do something in life, such as open a healing center or go into a personal practice or something like that, the universe is applauding innovation right now, applauding things being transformed and made better. And to me, and I talked about this in last week's show, but I just want to underscore it and keep preaching to the choir, like that not only are we going to create our personal dreams, but we're going to do something that we've never seen before. So the universe is applauding any effort to innovate your field. And I think this is God's secret weapon, if you want to call it a weapon, to transforming the earth. Yes, the earth appears to be on a bad track right now, the worst it's ever been, probably in some regards, or at least at one of the darkest points of our orbit and circles. But we have this simultaneous birth of people following their hearts, facing corruption, closing their karma, and the universe at the same time, if that's not enough, calling for us to innovate what we do so that it's better than ever, which really ultimately is difficult to beat. When you innovate the world, people aren't just going to argue with you because you innovated. They're going to try to catch up. So when you're an innovator, you are leading the world. The world has no choice but to give up or follow. If you stay where you are, well, then people can talk you out of it, argue with you, try to stop you. But if you're racing way ahead, then everyone has only one choice, and that is to move ahead and follow after where you are trailblazing. So with that said, let's talk about some of the specifics going on. I'm going to give you the planets and transits and the major aspects of the week. And then we're going to move on to our tea time, and we're talking about how it drills down for all 12 signs. The biggest influence, and if you're learning astrology, I love to teach it as I go, by the way. If you're learning astrology, the sun is where we shine. So the idea of astrology is the sun is the heart of the solar system. It's where everything orbits around in consciousness. And the sun is the heart in a human being. And that metaphor of the solar system is the same idea for how consciousness works in ourself. Our heart is the center of our consciousness, and everything else in our consciousness, such as our thoughts, which is Mercury, and our creativity and acceptance, which is Venus, and our ego, which is Mars, these states of awareness all orbit around the heart. So one of the biggest lessons to ascension is that you do have a most important state of awareness, and that is the heart. The heart is the most important. And isn't it ironic? The heart is the most important, probably, organ in our body. The heart stops, you're dead, right? Breathing would be second, which would be Mercury, Gemini, like the next planet. So the sun and Mercury are pretty much the fundaments of basic human life. And so what's fascinating about Leo is every time the sun goes into Leo, human beings will reassess where their heart is, and they will decide that their heart is interested in either higher objectives, different objectives, pulling out of objectives. But once the heart, which is the sun in Leo, has a new destination, then every part of you now orbits around a new destination. So a lot of people think that to change their life, they have to change their ego or change their mind, Mercury, or, change their inventions, which is Uranus, or change their boundaries, which is Pluto. But the way the solar system teaches us is our consciousness is based on the heart being the center of everything. So if you change the heart, every other part of you automatically follows. So this is one of the biggest things to understand about spiritual growth. You want to change your life, focus on your heart, focus on what your heart is investing. This week, our heart moves from step 19 to step 25, which means that we will move forward on Saturday, which is tomorrow. Today's step 18. Today, we're taking the first steps for our heart's journey. And I'm starting this new interview part of Astro Mingle. That's what my heart wants. My heart wants to mingle at the end of the show with another light worker, another influencer, and gab with my peers. But the sun moves from manifesting daily lifestyle of the heart all the way to, on next Friday, praying into your higher self to coordinate whether or not your heart's intentions is in line with your spiritual destiny. And I'll talk about that here. Well, let's talk about that right now. What that basically means is, again, talking about free will versus fate. It was fated that you would achieve certain things in this lifetime. It was fated that you would play a role, a critical role. Everyone, I think, has a role. If you're alive, you're part of the human earth experience, and you're part of the human collective consciousness. And so you're part of the organism known as Earth. You are a blood cell on Earth, basically, or a thought that Earth is having. Each of us is a part of that dynamic. If you're alive in this moment when Earth is trying to ascend, then you are some vital part of that ascension, and you have a place in that ascension that you agreed to with the universe, the collective, to perform. And I believe what that calling was following your own heart. So come Friday, when it becomes very spiritual, you'll sort of feel whether or not your heart is in alignment on next Friday, rather, whether or not your heart is in alignment with what your spiritual goals were. And you may find that you have to make some alterations, or that you're trying too much. You'll feel and sense that something's not quite right. So it's not so much to follow what our heart wants, but also to listen to our intuition, because our intuition can tell us whether or not we need to coordinate with other people, whether or not we need to go about it a different way. And that's really the ultimate of being on the right path of destiny, is that you're following your heart and you're listening to God. You're listening to your intuition, especially for warnings. So in this week, we go from step 19 to step 25, and we have a new moon at step 23. A new moon is the planting of creative seeds for a new future. So this week is the week where we ultimately plant the seeds to that future, and plant the seeds to that legacy and that place on Earth that you've come to serve in this great galactic transformation of planet Earth. So our heart is moving forward. Now, we also have Venus moving backwards, known as a Venus retrograde. And Venus retrogrades in the same sign about every 8 years, but it's never exclusively retrograded in Leo in our entire lives. The last time it exclusively retrograded in Leo was 1812, and before that, 1772. Venus retrograde is ultimately us letting go of certain attachments our heart has had as a part of our past trajectory of the heart. So as we're moving forward with new intentions, we're moving backwards with old intentions and letting go of old intentions. And that old and new will come together on Sunday, August 13th, when the sun conjuncts Venus, which is Cazimi. And what that means is ultimately our goals for the future meets the part of us that's letting go of the past. And from Sunday onward, I believe it's all now moving towards the future, and everything Venus retrogrades past the sun is letting go of things for the purpose of the future. Now, that's been the case the whole time, but we didn't quite know what our future purpose was. So you know that this relationship isn't working with an employer, or you know your heart's not really in the work you're doing anymore. So there's things that we know that is expired in our life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we know where we're headed. We just know what's no longer going to be sponsored by our heart. But once that Cazimi happens, which is again on Sunday, August 13th, we will, I believe, have an idea, a feeling of where our heart is headed. And therefore, every Venus retrograde degree from 20 all the way to 12, where it stations direct on September 3rd at 12 degrees, it will be us letting go of things in our daily life that are maybe holding us back from our future. So as of Sunday, it sort of shifts. Up until now, we've been letting go of things our heart just is not in. After Sunday and through this week, we start to let go of things that could be in the way, maybe not necessarily something you would have let go of, let's say, until you knew what your golden egg was. So for instance, maybe you decide, okay, my golden egg is I want to tour the world, which means I'm going to have to let go of this house, or I'm going to have to let go of, have to open up to renting out my home while I'm off on a world tour, or I'm going to have to open up to having a relative. So starting this week, we start to realize that we have to withdraw our heart's investment into certain things, not because they've expired, not because our heart's no longer in it. Our heart might be well in it, but it comes down to this weighing of what's more important. Do I want to go for this world trip around the world? Or do I want to stay true to, paying the mortgage on this house? Which is it? My heart was into this before, but now it's not. So you could say that given this week, we are creating a new vision for the future, but we're working through the logistics and withdrawing our heart from aspects in our life or investments of our heart in our life that could be holding us back from actually creating that future that we want to create. Now, at the same time, Black Moon Lilith, which in astrology represents an area of our consciousness that holds fear and trauma. And we have fear. The way Black Moon Lilith works is it's sort of like a lottery. As she moves through the zodiac or through the whole conscious collective, which is what the circle around the sun is in every part of human consciousness, the full 360 of consciousness, she is exposing any pocketed fear or trauma you may have at each one of those degrees. So sometimes a Black Moon Lilith degree is very painful to us because we happen to hold trauma or tragedy in that certain tune-up of that part of consciousness, or sometimes she's no big deal because we don't have any trauma or tragedy. Sometimes we have a collective trauma or tragedy. Like I would say collectively, we're all afraid of nuclear war. Everyone on the planet's probably afraid of nuclear war. Everyone on the planet's probably collectively afraid of starvation, right? These are basic fears that we all collectively hold. Maybe a lot of us are afraid of aliens and that sort of thing. But Black Moon Lilith at 24 means that we'll be facing fears this week of accepting our fate, fears of accepting our fate. And I just want to put out there what that sort of means. So sometimes let's say that your fate is to go off in the mountains and join a monastery, okay? But the fear of accepting that fate is that you're going to have to face your family who's not going to see you for a long time. Or the fear of accepting that fate may be that you're going to go without internet. You're going to be unplugged from society for a long time, that you're going to be out of touch, that people won't be able to find you. So there are consequences of our creative decisions. And this week, we have a very powerful week. We plant the seeds for what we want our heart to go after. And at the same time, the exact same time, we face the fear of the consequences of that choice. Now, going back to the beginning of this show, that's exactly why I am convinced the universe is conspiring for us to actually manifest these dreams at this time. Because I've never, in my history, I've been on the air now for 17 years of doing astrology. I've never seen God have such an efficient, sort of like, I'm thinking of that Indian God that has all the hands. I can't think of it now. Sometimes when I try to pull up a name, my mind just like, it becomes like a little spoiled child that takes the term around. A Shiva, is that what I'm thinking of? But it's sort of like we're being encouraged to go after our heart, and we're being encouraged to face the fears of going after our heart, and we're being called to withdraw from where our heart no longer can be attached to. See, in other Leo years, you just go after your heart. God's not helping you face the fears of accepting it. Thank you, Shiva. Thank you, Tabitha. It's Shiva. God's not, someone said Ganesha, but another one person says Shiva. Thank you. I love this live. It's like I have researchers. Go search Google real quick, folks, and tell me. I'm not super good on that part of religion in that world, because I don't think I've had many lifetimes in India, to be honest with you. So it doesn't resonate with me. I have to memorize it. But never in my history of being an astrologer have I seen God universe creating this weather, this conscious weather that supports all the necessary ingredients to actually pull it off. And I'm going to keep speaking to this right now. Now, you may ask, why am I beating you over the head about this being the perfect time? Because it's time, my friend. There's no time to wait. Like any other time I've been up here talking astrology, it's a good idea. We'll work on it. It's going to happen. This is it. This is the launch. This is the time. This is the one time I've seen in my life where God is saying it is absolutely time to go for your dreams. And I believe that by going for your dreams, that is your personal participation in the age of light. That despite all the shadow and all the fears and all the virus and all the things going on, you're going for it anyways. You are going for it. And that inspires other people who are sitting on the bus looking at you. That inspires your family members who are caught in fear. So you're doing everyone a favor right now by chasing after what your heart really wants. And the universe is conspiring to make it happen, taking away all the things that could interfere. So this week is a phenomenal week in that you will plant the seeds. And I recommend, because it's a step 23 new moon, I recommend that you write it down. At Sirius Joy, we have the 40 days of self-love. We have a notebook where we basically take notes. I don't know if it's come up, it's come invisible because of my thing, where we take notes and we journal every day. And so, if you don't have a journal, then make something enshrined, but make something sacred and holy for you, where you write down your intentions for the universe and what you want to see. That's what I recommend. Now, another aspect that's happening, and we're doing great with time here. I'm trying to be time conscious as I get into this live stuff. We have Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus this week, as it has been. Jupiter stays at step 14. So what that means is that we have an idea. You'll probably have an idea of how you're going to pull it off in daily life. And it's the idea your heart belongs with. It's not the idea that your parents told you. It's the idea your heart loves the most, by the way. So this is the idea that you prefer. So again, when it comes to how it's being done, this is also an area of great innovation. Jupiter is giving us new knowledge on new ways of how it could be done. So we're coming up with new ways. So it's very much supported that the way you go about your personal dreams is also unique, different, and refined. An example of that would be using technology. Before we might have, done it manually. Now we're going to use some sort of automation. Now we're going to use some sort of AI. Now we're going to use some sort of new tool that was invented. So there's an idea of how you're going to have it done. Uranus goes from 22 degrees to 23 degrees on Tuesday. And this is super important because 23 is the vision. The new moon in Leo is at 23, the vision. The sun will square Uranus on Tuesday, just before the new moon. And this new vision, in Uranus's case, involves the way we intend to innovate it in the future. So when I talked earlier about how we can't just do what's been done before, we need to see something that's never been done before. And that's contrary. It's interesting. I can't go too deep down a path that's not in alignment, but a lot of times when you open a business or something and you're trying to do something that's never been done before, that doesn't garnish much attention from other people. In fact, banks and other, institutions say you're taking too much risk. This isn't a good idea. Think about, for instance, Elon Musk and how much risk he took doing electric cars. Everything in the world said, don't take that risk. Go with what's been done before. But Uranus at 23 says, no, if you take the risk, if you do something we've never seen before, this is actually what's going to be supported. The world is supporting a new way of doing it and a new vision of how to do it. So this is absolutely the time to reinvent the wheel. Will everything succeed? No, there will be failures. If you look at, the original development of cars, back when we developed cars with Henry Ford and the Dodge brothers and Chevrolet, They were all competing to make automobiles, and some succeeded, some things didn't, and what succeeded everyone else copied. That's what an era of innovation is. So the universe is absolutely saying, go for it, innovate. Now, given that through the whole week, we also are very focused on the details and all of the specifics around this. We have Mercury in Virgo, and Mercury, by the way, is in shadow period. Mercury will retrograde at the end of the month. And let me just see exactly the date. It retrogrades on August 23rd, while Mercury is at what step is it at on the 23rd? Did I not write this down? Of course I did. Oh, no, I actually did not. That's crazy. I didn't write down Virgo for that day. So I think Mercury's at 21 degrees. That's where it's at. So Mercury's at 21 degrees when it retrogrades in Virgo. Mercury, first of all, is our thoughts, our intellect. Virgo is reality. So our mind is very much on reality this week. Mercury goes from 16 to 20 degrees, which basically means this is the working through the logistics that I was talking about at the top of this segment. That, we're not just, and this is another reason why I'm convinced that everything you're creating now is going to manifest, is because, thank you, Kristen Ryder, for seeing 21. Funny how my eyes go to the screen at a certain time, isn't it? Mercury, we're not just coming up with these high pie in the sky ideas. We have Mercury and Mars in Virgo. So we're looking at the reality, like, can I afford it? Are there the tools available? Will I be able to assemble the team? There's a lot of analysis, sometimes paralysis happening, but we are thinking through the details. We're not just, up on a cloud somewhere. We're actually processing it. But I want to make this very clear. Because Mercury's in shadow, Mercury's going to pass over this space again and then pass over this space for a third time. So what I'm saying is, you don't have to know exactly how you're going to do it. You're going to think through this at least 3 times. This is the first time, the rough draft, then there's an edit, then there's a final draft. But Mercury goes from 16 to 20 this week, which means that we pretty much think through all the details necessary to make it happen, that we're very much, detail oriented. And that's been the case, for instance, for this show. We're constantly working and crunching on the details to get all the graphics right and get all the timing right and get the technology right. Same sort of thing. Mars this week goes from 20 to 24 Virgo, which is ultimately setting sail for making that future happen. Mars will not retrograde through that space, nor will Mercury. So what's important to know is, as far as your future intentions of what you intend to do, which the idea that comes to my mind is when everyone says, hey, if you won the lottery, what would you do? Oh, it's like, I'd buy a house. I'd buy all my family a car. That's sort of where Mars is. Mars is at that, your ego is planning what you're going to do when you win that lottery, because I believe it will happen for people, not literally the lottery, because I think a lot of people manifest it out of freshness. But my point is that the plans you make for what you're going to do when your project begins, these plans will stay intact, is what Mars is showing. These plans will be likely what you do. Of course, there'll be alterations when we get there. Most likely when the sun gets to 20 degrees Virgo, that's when we start to realize, okay, I'm going to do what I want, but it's not going to quite be the way I want. But your plans for what you intend to do when that golden egg happens and launches, those plans are going to stay in place. So again, a new vision for the future and working through the logistics, getting down that strategy for the how-tos. Now, as we course through this week, as I've just spoken, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces means that we are changing our fate and karma. And, what Saturn and Neptune tell us, Saturn goes from step 5 to step 4 this week, which is very important. Pisces. Saturn is retrograde in Pisces. Saturn entered into Pisces again in March of this year for the first time since 1994 and 95. That's the last time Saturn was in Pisces. So it's been 30 years since Saturn's been in Pisces. It's been 30 years since we started to cut the cords of our karma. Saturn going to step 4 means that it's now time to approach yourself as karma free. All right. Approach yourself as karma free. And I just had this image of myself. I don't know if it's my guides talking to me, but what I'm really helping everyone is the posture of what you take. So the posture of what you take with yourself is, I'm over it. Not I'm over it is like, I'm sick of it, get me out of here. But let's say your karma, let me think of one with mine. No, let's not. Let's say your karma is that you are always too hard on yourself, that you're always super hard on yourself, and you always make it harder than it needs to be. So with Saturn moving to 4, which happens on, what day does that happen? Does it happen on, I didn't write down the day it happens. Let me just look real quick and see. It happens, oh, on Sunday. I did write it down. It happens on Sunday. So on Sunday, Saturn goes to 4. So from Sunday onward, it's not that you fake it till you make it. It's that you make it. It's that you must no longer approach yourself in that same way. That you can no longer be hard on yourself. You have to force yourself to stop. You have to force yourself to no longer play into that karmic pattern. And you may say, oh my God, I can't. It's too hard to stop. My mind's obsessed. You know, I have experienced when Saturn is in a sign, I can be as weak as Jello in that area. But suddenly when Saturn hits that area, I straighten up and I suddenly have, and I'm amazed. I'm like watching myself like go through the motions and actually do it. Whereas before, I might have just, melted into a pile of goo, not feeling like I had the courage, feeling like a victim and that sort of thing. So Saturn at 4 says it's now time to take that approach with yourself and assume that those karmic issues are over and start acting as if they are over. So literally behaving and belonging with yourself as if you are karma free, that it's no longer an issue, that it was an issue, but it's no longer an issue. Now, if you say it's no longer an issue, I'm not going to be hypercritical of myself, to use my example, and then the next day you catch yourself being hypercritical again, well, then you just reinforce it again and go, nope, I'm not going to be hypercritical of myself. I am ending this shift once and for all. I am no longer going to fall into this pattern I've had probably since childhood, frankly. That's probably since childhood. Probably the last time Saturn was in Pisces was the setup of karma. And this time it is the removal of that karma. For those people who are under 30 watching this show, you're being introduced to your karma. It will be 30 years until Saturn hits Pisces again that you will be able to get rid of it. So the first round is always introduction. The next round, 60 years, is getting rid of it. And if you happen to have it 90 years, then you enter into a mastery of that particular karma where you become particularly brilliant in that area and likely a leader of the world in that area or a leader of your world in that area. Most people do the 30 and 60 only because it doesn't quite always line up with 90 in the same issue. Depends on where Saturn started and how old you live in your life expectancy. But long story short, if you're under 30, you're being introduced to your karma with yourself. So pay attention and do your best to rise above it when you notice it. If you remember 1995 and you were, conscious back then, this is the time to end your karma. Now, here's where it plays into Neptune. By ending your karma with yourself, which is Saturn, and stopping that, Neptune at 27 raises the ceiling of what's possible. So to go back to my original talk on being in heaven and having this idea of free will versus fate, it was fated that you would overcome this karma. It was fated. And if you do overcome it, then you open up to the next chapter or spiritual level in your story. And I personally believe that we continue to ascend. I believe that after we're on Earth as humans, we live in the 5th dimension and we attempt to become ascended masters. And then after ascended masters, I don't know what happens. We become part of God's force, but we're on our way to angelic, being an angelic level. We just keep going up and up and up and up, from what I understand. But my point is that we graduate. The way you graduate to the next level is you end the old level. And this is a way where the planets are conspiring here with Saturn at the bottom and Neptune at the top. Saturn cutting the karmic cords, Neptune opening up the new doors, cords and doors. Again, had you had a creative idea before, in another year besides 2023, you may have still had the karma. So although you had the idea, you were still self-sabotaging, being overcritical of yourself, staying stuck in your childhood patterns. But now as you go for the personal dream, boom, we have the karmic scissors right there, which is Saturn. Saturn is a saw. It has a saw blade around it. Saturn is a saw. Saturn cuts away the karma, cuts the cords, makes an incision, which is known as a decision. And we energetically leave that bottom part of the 8, which is what Saturn is, number 8. We leave the bottom part of the 8 alone, leaving the top part of the 8 for us to float and ascend higher. And that's literally what's happening this week as Saturn moves to step 4. And isn't it amazing that Saturn goes to step 4, which is, okay, cut it, go where you belong, right when you launch the hot air balloon for your future, right at the same time? I find that to be perfect and beautiful of society and karma and consciousness. The next aspect I want to talk about before we get to our individual horoscopes is Aries synergy. We have the North Node at 27 degrees Aries. It moves to 26. So it moves to 26 on Tuesday, which is the day before the new moon. That's very significant. 27 is that we were defining a new character. So having it at 27 was, okay, I'm going to live up to this new character and become this new character. 26 is when you commit to that character, when you commit to becoming this new character, this new action plan in your life. And the fact that the North Node moves to 26 on Tuesday, the day before the new moon, tells me that part of this creation is not just that you are creating a golden egg or living by your heart or your personal dreams or your golden age of opportunity and love, but you're becoming someone you've always wanted to be. And that's something to think about in your journaling. If you're on Sirius Joy in our 40 Days of Self-Love, who is it that you are becoming? Do you see yourself as that star? Do you see yourself as that leader? Do you see yourself as that head of the family? How do you see yourself? This is creating a new identity for people, a new character. Now, the last time the North Node was in Aries, which was 2004, mostly 2005. It entered into Aries December 2004, so mostly 2005. That was when I became this character, when I decided I don't want to be a director behind the scenes. I want to be on camera talking to the people. So I remember that new character vision that I had, and I was afraid of it. And there was all sorts of things I had to let go of. And with the South Node and Libra, you have to let go of relationships. So I had to let go of all my colleagues in reality TV that I was working with. I built up a whole network of TV people and production people and filmmakers. And it was like, I was going off to become this new character. I was heading off into the sunset and into the unknown, but I felt such a calling for it. I couldn't say no to it after I had started. So that may be the same for you now, that there's this calling that you've always wanted. And for some people, these are sort of backdoor visions that you had, like maybe for, 10 years when you were in your 20s, you wanted to be an author, but then you had kids and got married and you got distracted and those types of dreams sort of faded away. And now the kids are going to college. Now you're an empty nester. And now you're going, maybe that vision for me as an author was correct. I was just not right about the time. So it could be, I find that most creations are not surprises at all. Like I had always been thinking of it and always wanting it. There was just somewhere along my journey where I thought I was being unrealistic, and then I'll be damned, it comes back up again. So the North Node is saying, hey, you're committing to becoming this character. And that drive to become the character is as powerful as the drive to create that reality you want to create. And with the South Node in Libra, you're going to have to let go of colleagues or different people you've worked with or different situations, because if they were in alignment with what you were headed for, you'd already be on that path, and you're not. So changing paths means changing the cast. Chiron is still at step 19. I feel like a broken record because it's at 19 for 97 days. But what that means is that we are facing our fear or trauma or wounds of the times when we have failed. So you absolutely can expect the times you failed to come up when you are making these commitments, that it's going to happen, that you're going to remember the time you failed. And it's just part of being human. You have to have the courage to try again. You have to have the courage to be willing to make a mistake again. You have to go for another round and take that risk. And that's partly what separates, the adults from the children in the room, is that you could say a child is probably more courageous than an adult, to be honest, like as far as going forward and trying again. It's like we're younger, we're dumber. And so, I think it probably gets harder the older you get to get back on that horse and try again. But Chiron there says the universe's intention with where Chiron is in its orbit is for us to overcome that fear of getting back on the horse forever. So what Chiron does report is this is you healing this part forever. And the last time Chiron was in Aries was actually in the late 60s and early 70s. So that was the last time humanity was being encouraged to get back on the horse and try again. And if you look at that time was very defeating. Like we had high inflation, politics was a mess. We were caught in Vietnam. Our president was corrupt. It looked very dark, like it is now. Like it did not look like America was going to make it out of that moment either. And then ironically, Ronald Reagan comes running in on a horse, a cowboy, literally a guy who played it as a cowboy. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of a cowboy leader coming in here at some point in the Chiron and Aries transit. But the point is it's time to get back on that horse. And if you do, the planets show that's it. You won't have that fear again in this lifetime, because Chiron will not be in Aries again if you're an adult. So that's the main waves. Now, talking about our emotional waves this week, starting tonight through the weekend, very emotional. The moon is in Cancer, so it's going to be a moody weekend. You're going to feel all sorts of stuff. Your feelings are catching up with you. So, this is the first time when you might realize, oh, Christ, I am afraid of getting back on that horse. Oh, God, I have a lot of sadness coming up when I address this topic. Oh, goodness, I'm feeling incredibly nervous about going forward with this plan, or scared to face my family. So this weekend, we go from 19 to 20 with the sun. I'd say the degree that people give up the most is step 19. So most time when people give up, they can't make it from 19 to 20 is usually when they drop the ball and can't make it. So, so this is the weekend where don't let your feelings get the best of you. Realize that feelings can be ironed out. They can be supported. They can be nurtured. They can be overcome. They shouldn't be denied. They shouldn't be shut off with alcohol and drugs, because that only keeps them sitting there waiting for you the next time. But they should absolutely be addressed. And if there's going to be a cloudy time this week, it's going to be this weekend where things are most cloudy, most moody, most emotional. And the question is, will you love yourself to get yourself over that hump? That's the question. Will you love yourself to get yourself over that hump? Then the moon moves into Leo on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, you're emotionally building up the dream. You're rah-rahing yourself. Monday, you're going to be very, very optimistic. So almost the opposite of this weekend. So suddenly you'll be optimistic and hopeful. The moon's in Leo. You're excited. Your creativity is flying. Maybe you're excited about love. You're excited about other things. And then, of course, we build up to the new moon, which is when you say, that's it, I'm going to go for it. So the new moon is like, yes, I'm going to go for it. I'm going for this vision. This is what I want. Yes, God, this is what I want. So we sort of put in our vote on Wednesday with the new moon. And then the moon goes into Virgo on Thursday and Friday. And that's when we get very emotional about the logistics, where it's like, oh, yeah, I was all gung-ho on Wednesday night for the new moon. Then I saw my bank account. Then I saw the regulation around opening a business in this state. Then I saw, how many things I've got to do before I can get there. So again, it's like Friday, Saturday, emotional discouragement. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, yes, I can do this. Thursday, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I could afford this. Thursday and Friday sort of feel these doubts as the moon crosses Mercury, and then the moon crosses Mars. When the moon crosses Mars, we're all going to be like, hell yeah, I'm going to do it. And then we move on to Friday. In fact, Wednesday is a 2-part day. We have Leo, then Virgo. So you might hit some reality right after the new moon. You might have sort of this coming down off of the instinct. And then Friday is all very Virgo. And that's when we have step 25 ruling the day. So on Friday, I think there might be a moment of hopelessness. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And that is when faith must take over. So just letting you know that there's a faith versus reality conflict, basically Thursday and Friday. Thursday being, oh God, reality is too heavy. I don't think I can do it on Friday. Like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do this and accept this. And something else happens on Thursday too, which I'll tell you in a second. And then Friday, it's like, oh God, please help me through this. So on Friday, we literally give it up to God, give it up to our higher self, and just have faith. Again, if you're cutting those cords of the old way of treating yourself, then you're opening up the ceilings of fate and destiny. So go that way. And then next Saturday, which is next week's show, that's when you're actually ready to commit. And the moon is in Libra. And so it's feeling more balanced and more appropriate. So that said, so the major transits, let's go through the week one more time with the major transits. On Sunday, when the moon is in Cancer, we have the Cazimi, the Sun and Venus conjoin. And so on Sunday, that's when you go, I'm going for the vision. I'm going for it. We'll see if it goes. And that means I'm going to have to let go of certain things in my daily life in order to afford going for that vision. Then on Monday, Venus trines Chiron. So that means our heart realizes that we could fail. We failed once before. If we're going to do this vision, we can't fail like we always have. It can't fall off the horse. It can't happen again. Then on Tuesday, the sun squares Uranus, which means then we go, okay, well, it's going to have to be better than it's ever been before. I'm going to have to use new materials in my manufacturing. I'm going to have to find a different alternative way of. So Tuesday is when we get really transdimensional and we sort of go outside of our body and we realize if we're going to pull this off, we've got to do it like it's never been done before. And again, I keep using Elon Musk as an example because I've just been studying him for the last couple of months. But it's like, it wasn't enough just to create an electric car. You had to invent a battery. You had to invent things that hadn't been invented before. And if you're going to make this affordable, then you have to reinvent manufacturing and the way it's manufactured. I use him as an example because he's well known. But the point is that on Tuesday, you realize the only way you're going to do it is if you overcome and you innovate and you get more for less energy, basically. So that square, I think, is a turnaround. Now, it's also Love Fest Day on Tuesday. Tell everyone you love them on Tuesday. And that means that you will, I think, at the end of the day, decide your heart is in this to win this, and you're going to pull this off come hell or high water. So I think Tuesday is sort of a neck and neck, sort of sweating beads, wondering, and then you realize, yes, I can pull this off. Love Fest is sort of the answer. God is behind me. Wednesday is the new moon. So after that, like, can I innovate? Then it's like, okay, here's my plans, God, I'm turning it in. Mars trines Uranus, which means we're going to, as far as logistics are concerned, we're going to go with the innovation of stuff. And then Thursday, which is the day when the moon moves into Virgo, and I said that's the day where reality really hits. On Thursday, the sun conjoins Black Moon Lilith. And so we have to, that fear of accepting that fate. Remember I said earlier, it's like, I have to accept the fact that I want this because it's going to disappoint people. I have to accept the fact that I want this. It's going to put me in debt. I have to accept the fact that I want this because it's going to have consequences. You face those consequences on Thursday. So for those of you who come back to watch the show, I think Thursday is the most difficult day of the week because we have to accept the consequence and the price of our vision and face our fears head on. This is the conjunction of Black Moon Lilith. It only happens once a year. So you may face some big fear come Thursday, basically, that in order to have this happen. And I think not facing the fear is definitely a exit point of the vision. Like you could find yourself exiting and saying, I can't face the fear. I'm not ready to face the fear. I really hope you do face the fear. Again, just to plug my own service, this is why you have Sirius Joy, because we encourage you through these hard points and we cheerlead you and rah-rah you. But I think if you give up, you will regret it the rest of your life. I really do. And I'm not trying to be Leo dramatic, even though I am Leo dramatic. So the last aspect that I want to talk about going on this whole week, and then Friday, we give it to God. So after facing your fears, you just give it to God. And this is where we have to surrender to our higher power in order to let go of the lower power. So surrendering to God is necessary in manifestation because we get so stuck on earth that if we want to improve our earthly experience, we have to go to the God level to let go of the earth level to get there. You can't change the earth if you keep holding on to the present. You have to give it to something invisible, higher than you, more powerful than you, so you can let go of all the things you're grappling onto for dear life on earth and grab onto something else, which is what faith is. We hold on to faith so that the floor can swap out from under us when we're holding on to that faith. So Friday is a day of having faith. Now I'll be back next Friday. And so we'll be preaching that faith when we come back for the show. So ultimately this whole week is also, and this is the last detail I'll give, and we'll go to our zodiac, our tea time, and our personal horoscopes. But this whole week, there's a grand trine, and I'll show it on the chart for you here in this next segment. But there's a grand trine between Mars, Pluto, and Uranus. It's a grand trine in Earth. And a grand trine in Earth means that you are laying down the foundation for something to manifest. And that's the biggest gift God has given us in this particular year's time. I've talked about all the other spiritual conspiracies going on to face fear, accept fear, cut the cords with Venus retrograde, cut your old karma with yourself, break the glass ceiling of your destiny, look through all the logistics so it's not just a pipe dream. When all that is done, a grand trine in Earth says, so it can manifest in solid form. So to have a grand trine in Earth playing out the same time when you're cleaning up all this other stuff means that not only are you blueprinting your new reality, but God is setting up the factory. God is setting up the manifestation potential. And that's what a grand trine is, a triangle is, by the way. And that's the only meaning of a triangle in this show, by the way, is a grand trine in astrology, which is 3 planets, each at 120 degrees from one another. So we'll look a little bit deeper at that grand trine, and we'll talk about how it affects all 12 signs. But until then, I'd say it's time to go steep yourself some tea, my friend, and let's have our weekly tea. All right. So as I mentioned prior to this, I want to show the planets. And for those who are new to the show, welcome to Namaste Today Live. Welcome to Sirius Joy. We aim to get real serious about our joy. Before we begin, I want to do a little screen share and show some planets going on. And then we're going to dive deep for all 12 signs on what to expect over the upcoming week and how this will affect everyone. So let's go to our preview here. Wonk, wonk. And we're calling this Finding Your Inner Merlin, something I have not really hit home about in this show so far. But I believe that we are in all this process of all these things I've talked about. What we're doing is we are finding our own magic. We are finding ourselves as our own wizard, our own potential to create life and to manifest our dreams. I believe we all have a wizard in us. We all have a Merlin in us. I like Merlin because I've been working with Merlin for lifetimes now. His energy, I believe he is the incarnation of Saint Germain. That's a whole nother topic. But I have learned that we all have magic within us, and that's the point of ascension. By the way, the Merlin energy is also captivated by Archangel Ratziel. So if you pray to the angels, pray to Ratziel, or ask to speak or work with Saint Germain. If you want to work on the other side, you're certainly welcome to. But let's take a look. We're just going to look at the new moon chart here of what the new moon looks like. New moon apexes at 5:38 a.m. on Wednesday, August 16th. So very early. This is, of course, in the United States. I always run it from Miami, Florida, because I love Miami and we need an East Coast date. So looking at the planets here, the sun conjuncts the moon at 23 degrees Leo. 23 is our vision for the future. Notice Waldemath here is also at 23. And Waldemath is where we have been bruised before. So God is actually really working on us facing our bruises, facing our shadow while we create the light. The sun and moon are the light, and Waldemath, which is another version of Black Moon Lilith, it's a less, hello, Rebecca, I just saw you pop in. Waldemath is a less intense wound. So this would be like your first business filing bankruptcy, like that would be Waldemath. And Black Moon Lilith, one step after, would be your fear of success, a big blanket thing like success. I'm afraid of success because I've seen, my family all turn into alcoholics when they are successful or something like that. So this new moon, it's like we're facing the time we lost our business, the one time we screwed up, and we're facing the fear 1 degree away of Black Moon Lilith, of the big umbrella fear of success as well. And I'm telling you this because I want you to know that, like, if you are feeling these fears pour in when you are making your vows on Wednesday for your new moon and you're writing it into your journal, you absolutely will be having these dark ideas coming up at the same time. And your creation is the solution to those events. The solution to losing your first business is being successful in your second. The solution to facing your fear of success is becoming successful. That's the solution. So turn that lemon into lemonade, turn that poison into medicine, turn that fear into motivation and determination. And I think that is another added benefit of this particular week. Venus is at 18 degrees retrograde, which is actually the degree we're at right now. So we're at 18 today. So you will also probably withdraw the behavior. So you, at the time of the new moon, you're going to be pulling out of, like, your heart's going to be pulling away from certain actions that you have done. So for instance, if you have overindulged in chocolate, you might go, okay, there's no way I'm going to make it as a beauty queen if I overindulge in chocolate, whatever the dream may be. You're going to realize you have to pull out of something. Juno is so interesting. That's where we create a dynamic relationship with ourselves. So it's saying, hey, hold space for self-love and realize you have to have self-love. Another interesting aspect, here are the logistics I talked about. Mercury at step 19. So our mind is thinking about what we're going to have to manifest in daily life to pull this off. Mars is saying, hey, we're going to have to innovate. Mars at 22 Virgo says, hey, we're going to have to innovate. And Mars is trining into Uranus at this time, which is really important and powerful. Mars is starting to oppose Neptune. So this is the faith versus reality. And really, one of the main themes of next week's show is faith versus reality, because Mars will be opposing Neptune, which is more and more and more of that, that opposition, more and more of that intensity. So you'll you'll have to really raise the faith, raise the faith, raise the faith. And so what I'm expecting to have happen is Mars will be like, oh, well, it looks like we have to renew our license for this. Oh, our passport's going to expire. We need to get a new passport. Mars is going to just keep throwing up obstacles that have to be faced. And it's a constant faith, Neptune versus reality, Mars and Virgo. So expect that. When you're changing your life, there's a lot of obstacles and things that come up. But then what I want to point out is this grand trine here. This grand trine, you can see this triangle going from these 3 points, the grand trine in Earth, Pluto and Capricorn at 28. So we're transforming our power. Uranus at 23, look at 2300. We're innovating the manufacturing, or innovating the manifestation, or innovating the finance. So the high degrees of Taurus is manufacturing, finance, the formula, the model. So going to a new model number in what you're doing, you're taking it up a notch in as far as your technology and your ability to manifest. And this is tying into the logistics. So for all this week, we have this grand trine going on where you are constantly assessing, what are the logistics? Where does power have to transform? And what am I going to have to innovate in order to get there? That grand trine is ultimately the guarantee that what you're envisioning here is going to happen, because we're not just, again, sitting on a cloud drinking lemonade. We're actually processing the logistics, the transformation and power, and the innovation necessary to make this happen. And grand trines happen. Now, you'll notice this is not just a grand trine, but this is what we call a kite formation. You see how it points to Neptune? So this whole grand trine points to a kite, which is the top here, to Neptune. The kite formation says what it all comes down to. So what it all comes down to is our destiny, Neptune at 27. It all comes down to following our destiny. This grand trine is destined. And by the way, because Pluto's involved here and because Uranus is involved here, I do predict the sabotage of bad actors, because Pluto does sabotage bad actors, and Uranus also sabotages when you are not where you belong. So if you have your hands, if someone in your company's got their hands in the cookie jar and they're stealing from the company, they might get exposed this week when we have this grand trine, because in order to manifest fate, it means this person's going to have to be exposed and I wouldn't do it yourself. I would let the planets do it for you, unless God tells you and your higher self tells you you're the one to be the whistleblower. If that's the case, by all means, follow your dreams, be the whistleblower. If you feel like it's out of your hands, well, then it is. Like this kite is saying, a new reality is going to be formed that's part of destiny. And again, the more of us that get on the path of our personal dreams, the more this is automated for the rest of the world. Okay. And I could talk so much more about this, but I want to stay on track and talk about the 12 signs now. So with that said, let's move on now to our 12 signs. And I'm just moving things around here on my multi-screen computer. I'm glad I'm getting better at this. I'm proud of myself. All right. So for each of the 12 signs, what I'm going to talk about is where the new moon is. So the new moon and black moon Lilith, where you are facing new and eliminating fears. So where you are creating a new vision for the future and you are accepting certain fears about that vision. And then I'm going to talk about basically the grand trine in Earth, where Mars and Virgo is telling you, hey, it's time to face logistics and face the details necessary in these logistics to get there. Uranus and Taurus is saying, hey, it's also time to innovate the vision and innovate the manifestation path, or the manufacturing path, or the financing path. And then Pluto and Capricorn, where in your life you must transform your personal boundaries. You have to get comfortable with some things, close down to other things. So there's like a opening and closing of boundaries. And this opening and closing of boundaries leads to a change of your ability to manage or control or drive things. So this allows you to to take control of the wheel by transforming the boundaries. And of course, those three are all working together. The logistics, the innovation, and the transformation of boundaries. Working together means it's sort of like working on an entanglement. It's like, oh, you pull away the boundaries, and then it's like, oh, now I can innovate. Now that I can innovate, I can move forward in the logistics. Now some more boundary work. Now some more innovation. Now some more. So a grand trine is that you're working on all three of them, but you're working on them out of sequence based on where you're entangled and where you want to bring solidarity to your conscious awareness. So realize there's no sequence. It's what's necessary. Now, lastly, if you know your natal chart, you know your rising sign, the way sun sign versus rising sign works is you must first follow my guidance in the sun sign. So the sun sign has to be taken care of first, and then the rising sign can be taken care of. So always make sure your sun sign is first before you look at your rising sign, because the sun sign is the source energy, sun, the source, and the rising sign is what ends up manifesting, what you end up becoming as a result. All right. And starting with the Aries. Aries are creating a new vision for their golden egg. So golden egg is personal dreams, what you've always wanted, the love of your life, having that fifth child, so it's about creating a vision now for where your dreams are going to come true. Aries, it is absolutely time for your dreams to come true. You are the hero. You are the one that breaks the chains. You are the one that breaks free first. If you're not doing it for you, do it for us, because you are our hero many times in that you have the courage to do it when other people didn't. And you may not realize it, but people follow you. People follow you, the trend you do. I know that you feel lazy until the moment you do it. I know that secret about you. So it's okay to feel, you only have to not feel lazy when you actually do it. You can totally be that sheep, not wanting to move until it's time to lock horns and do it. And now you have to face the fears of the consequences that this is going to bring. If you're going to follow the loving, the love of your life, and you've been dating someone that's not the love of your life, then you have to face the fear of hurting that person, letting them down, because you have to be true to your own heart. So there's consequences. But anyone that loves us will not get in the way because they love us. And when you love someone, you want them to have what their heart needs and wants and desires. And when you're following your heart, everyone's taken care of. There's something I believe. So if you're doing what's best for your heart and it involves other people being upset, it will be in their highest good also. That's what I found. The only time it's not in their highest good is when your ego or your mind is the one pushing for it and not your heart. So the grand trine, Mars in Virgo says, move forward with all of your logistics and planning for your lifestyle, your work, your talent, how you're going to perform, the tools you're going to use, the vendors you're going to sign up, the loan you're going to get, like all the details, go forward with that. But coordinate those details with making money. You have to keep in mind how you're going to create abundant money. And it's not just money, it's abundance. So it is passive income. It's money that keeps playing out and keeps paying you even after you've started it. You don't want to just do a one and done sort of thing. You want to do something that is going to keep making you money and keep bringing in more business. This isn't the time to do a short project. This is a time to do a long-term project. You can keep the short going while you're to finance the long-term, but I wouldn't start something that's not long-term right now, Aries. And I know you're going to want to give up right before it happens. That's another story for another day. But you won't, because I'll be rooting you on. Now, this passive income abundance, you have to also tie in the logistics with retirement, legacy, leadership, parenting, etc. So it has to be in line with how you're going to end up being more empowered. We're going to have more control, where you're going to be living your legacy and setting yourself up for retirement. And even if you're 20, set yourself up for retirement. I don't see, you're not going to ever have Pluto in the high degrees of Capricorn again in your lifetime. So take advantage of this and set your sights for that. It may take 20 years to get there. So that is Aries, basically a new vision for personal dreams and coordinating lifestyle, money, and control. I see a question here from Diane Elberly, ask, what if the sun and rising are the same? And the answer is, you have no filters. They're not exactly the same, but in this context, they are. So there's nothing else to consider. Just go for it if you have a double rising. Taurus. Tauruses are going for long-term emotional security. So you're creating the vision for long-term security. That is the house of your dreams. That is the family you always wanted. That is, money for retirement. So Taurus, you are setting up your nest egg for sure. And this will bring you emotional security. You have to face the fears around getting the mortgage, approved, or face the fears of starting over with a family, or face the fears of, having to be insecure before you are secure. So you have to face fears around emotional security and what's in the way. What you're coordinating with the grand trine is, for one, your personal dreams. So it's the logistics around your personal dreams. Taurus, it's time to go for your personal dreams and think of all the logistics around love, creativity, children, your golden age. That could be your retirement, or when everything's going to be perfect, or the utopia that you're building. You have to keep in mind all the details for making sure your heart gets what it wants also. So getting a great home doesn't mean you give up the dream. You have to coordinate that with your character of who you're becoming. So this new dream is a new you. It's a new business card. It's a new way people see you. It's a new wardrobe. It's a new hairstyle. It's a new strut, in your walk. So it's not just going after dreams, it's going after who you meant to be and what you're meant to do. And that has to tie into your life's purpose, that your purpose has to be, and the story that you end up living, your legacy of your story has to be tied into this. So again, for Tauruses, this is pretty much like full success. It's like you're going to be grounded. You're going to be grounded. You're going to be going after your dreams. You're going to be becoming the new person you are. You're going to be living according to your life's purpose. For Tauruses, there's nothing more dead bang on than what you're here to do. This is the time to manifest, Taurus, like you've never manifested before. Geminis, you are going for big plans and big ideas. What your heart really wants to do, and what you find intellectually stimulating, what you find intellectually fulfilling. And this ties into your long-term strategy. So the new moon is that you're creating this new plan for how everything's going to go, to where your mind just loves thinking about it. That's when a Gemini can't stop talking about it or can't stop thinking about it, their heart is engaged. So it's time to do that. You have to face all the fears of what that means. And that might mean that you're accepting a title. You might be saying, I'm going to be a this, or I'm going to be a that. I'm going to be married. I'm going to be divorced. So you might be facing the fears of this new title, or the fears of this new label that people might label you. That's possible. That happens because you are changing the intellectual perspective of all this. What you have to unite in the grand trine is, for one, your career and legacy. So the details of career, legacy, leadership, parenting, all those details around that stuff. And tying in your career to your faith that you have to have. Geminis have to have higher and greater faith. You have to have a connection to God or the angels, or know your fate. If you're not going to connect to God and the angels, then you need to know what your fate is. You know you're destined for something. You know you were born for something. So you're not going to have the career if you don't also have the faith. And you also aren't going to have the faith in the career unless Pluto and Capricorn, you transform your boundaries. So you have to be open to things you didn't want to be open to in the past. You have to say no to things that you have been reluctant to say no to. You have to coordinate your boundaries, your faith, and your career into one unified effort, that they're all working together: career, faith, and boundaries. And then you're going to change your boundaries to meet that fate. And if you do, these big ideas will manifest. Cancers are coming up with a new vision for money and abundance and passive income, or automation. That's another way of looking at the top decan of the second house, is automation, how you plan to automate things. So where money is making money all by itself while you sleep. Passive income is what that is, right? So you'll have to face your fears around bankruptcy, around getting the loan, around convincing other investors, like all sorts of fears around that to pull it off. And that'll happen literally the day after the new moon, where you'll face those fears. And what you're unifying with the grand trine in Earth is, one, your plans. So Mars and Virgo is all your plans, your strategy, your message, your intellectual investment in it. So what your mind is invested in. And you have to tie that into who you want to be in the world. So it's not just you're making money, it's that you're going to be someone bigger in the world, someone better in the world, someone higher in the world than you were before. That could be higher in the food chain, that could be higher in the management, that could be higher in popularity, but it's higher. Okay. So it's not just your plans, it's like how you're going to go higher in the world. And then that has to tie into marriage and partnership. And this is a big one for you Cancers, because so many Cancers are not where they want to be because they married someone that wasn't healthy for them, that they were holding on to unhealthy relationships. And that is either in your life or not in your life. I know Cancers are holding on to the idea that they're meant to be with someone from high school. And it's like, that person ain't called in 30 years, like, and you think you're meant to be with them. So Cancers have to close down to the toxic relationships and hold space for the healthy relationships. And the healthy relationship has to support you in who you're becoming in the world, has to support you in your big ideas and your big plans, and your marriage has to support you just as a person, like in a marriage support. So you're unifying your social world, your thinking, and your marriage and partnerships, and all those must be coordinated to create this higher abundance and passive income. Leos, happy birthday, Leo. Leos are creating a new vision for their character. So your character, how you defend yourself, how you behave, how you act, this is where you are transforming yourself, is in this new character, in this new expression of yourself. Leos are already fabulous, but they're about to become more fabulous. Okay. And you have to face your fears that are pretty obvious: rejection, looking stupid, not being accepted. I think it's pretty obvious what your fears will be of trying this new character or this new hairstyle. Keep on the lookout, folks. I'm expecting Leos to have a new hairstyle in the next 2 weeks, okay, and a new look for themselves. This includes Leo risings as well. Now, for you to reach these character and action plans and defenses, you first of all are going to have to get to the logistics of money and passive income. Like, so you've got to make sure your business is in order, that you're moving forward with making money, you're moving forward with your new brand, you're moving forward with abundance. And you have to tie that money into your career objectives, and your career is going higher now. Leos have Uranus in the house of career, so it's time to be higher, to go for a higher market, to go for a higher world mark that you want to leave on the world, to go for a higher legacy, to go for more money in the bank when you retire, to go for a greater leadership position than the one you had. So it's not just about making money. It's got to be in a higher role, a higher title, a promotion of your title, so to speak. And this has to tie into the basically transforming your daily life and how you perform. Leos have got to close down to certain habits in their birthday. I mean, in their lifestyle for their birthday. They have to open up to new ways of living. Your lifestyle has to change. So you're uniting money, career, and lifestyle all in one with this grand trine. And because you're uniting money, career, and lifestyle, this is what allows you to transform your character into this nice bloom, this new beautiful expression of Leo. And I think this is the biggest change Leos have ever made in their entire life. That's my opinion on the matter. Okay, Virgo. Virgo, you know, I always take a drink on yours because it's halfway through. And you won't gripe at me for being good to myself. Leos, you are manifesting a new vision of faith, which could also mean a new vision of destiny. So you might have thought, oh, I'm destined to have 6 kids and be a grandmother at 25 and destined to be the head matriarch of this family. And then now you go, I think I'm also destined to be a best-selling author. So it's like you have a new vision for what your destiny is. You have a new vision for what your fate is. Or for some Virgos who are on the path of spiritual enlightenment, you may have a new vision for your relationship to God, or a new vision for your relationship to the angels. We're talking about Virgo here, by the way. Someone asked what sign. This is Virgo now. So Virgos are creating this new vision, and you have to face your fears with God and face your fears with destiny. So maybe you're afraid that that God won't be there for you, or that you're destined with bad luck, or you're destined with a bad fate. So you have to face whatever that, your fears of bad karma, your fears of bad luck, they have to be faced. Now, what you're uniting in the grand trine of Earth is, for one, with Mars and Mercury in Virgo, your character and action plan. So who you are becoming. This is part of the logistics of who you're becoming, who you are and who you're not. Will you do dishes? Do you do windows? Do you do carpets or not? You know, like, so what you will do or won't do, who you are or not. I am the boss. I am not your, you know, your assistant. Like, so you're moving to a new character and a new action plan. And that's uniting with your life purpose and your personal journey and story. And so I use the example of a new destiny is because your purpose is now going to a higher level. With Uranus and Taurus, I don't care who you are as a Virgo, you were shortchanging yourself as far as your life purpose and your journey. You weren't going high enough. So the universe is saying, Virgos, it's time to go higher with your journey. It's time to go higher with your personal purpose. And that has to be tied into your personal dreams. So it's not just what I'm meant to do. It's not just who I'm meant to be. It's the joy and the love I'm expected to create in my life. And that's Pluto in Capricorn, that you have to change the boundaries around what your heart wants or doesn't want. You may open up to something your heart has never wanted your whole life. And now you're realizing, yes, I do want it. And you're realizing it's my purpose, and you realize it's who I become. So Virgo's uniting your character, your purpose, and your personal dreams all into one. Again, the earth signs, because of the grand trine of earth, the earth signs are probably set up to manifest the most out of all the 12 signs, because it's uniting these three areas of your life that go so hand in hand and are so life transformative. I think it's transformative to everyone personally, but I think the earth signs are going to see probably the most visible transformation. That's what earth signs do. They are literal. But really, the new vision is a new faith and a new fate, Virgo. Libras. Libras are coming with a new vision for who they are in the world, their reputation, their social status. You have to face any fears about having a bad rep or not being expected or being outcasted or being canceled. Any kind of fear around that sort of stuff has to be faced. But you're coming with a new vision for who the world's going to be. This is your brand. This is your marketing if you already have a brand. This is your advertising. This is your social media. It's a new vision for your image in the world, basically, and what you're going to do or not do. Now, what you have to unite is, one, your faith. You have to get very practical about your faith. Practical means detailed and nitpicky. So you have faith in this, but you don't have faith in that, and you'll find faith by getting this. So you're getting really anal retentive with what you have faith in and what you don't. And of course, face what you don't have faith in with practical solutions. You have to unite this higher faith with the fact that you're willing to transform your life. So you're not going to be able to keep life the way it is. You're going to have to be out of your comfort zone. You have to raise your tolerance in some cases to certain things. You have to raise your patience in other times for things to transform. You're raising the bar of how far your life has to change. You might have thought, oh, I only have to change my wardrobe. No, but your wardrobe, your car, your business cards, it's much more change than you thought it was. You got to raise the stakes on change. And you want to tie this into literally, and I don't know if I have this right. Oh, I don't have it right. The good thing I figured this out. You have to tie this into your emotional security. Your emotional security has to change, and how you feel secure and why you feel secure. So this makes a lot of sense. Faith, changing your boundaries, changing your emotional security. This tells me that for Libras to have their place in society, they're going to have to change a lot of what they rely on as far as their rock. All the things that are your rock, which are that you never waver here, or that your home is always there, or that your faith has always been in your money, your faith has always been in your family. These three things have to change, which means Libras are going to feel really unstable in the transition, because all the parts that stabilize you now are going to be flux and fluid. So you're going to have to, flap your wings and go back and forth and just balance it out in order to get there. Scorpios. Scorpio. Notice it's water. That's for a certain Scorpio out there. Scorpios are creating a new vision for their legacy, their retirement, and their mark on the world. So it's a new vision for what you're going to be known for, what you're going to do, what your career is going to be, how you're going to come across as a parent, not a parent. You are creating a new vision, and you have to face your fears. Maybe what you want to do is you want to be your own business person, but that means that paychecks are not fluid. That means there's no guarantee. So probably facing the fears that there's no guarantee is probably the biggest one. But if you're living in your heart, this is your heart's truth. If you're following what your heart wants to do and you're doing what your heart wants, then that is the guarantee. That's where we have to have faith is in that. For you to have this new legacy and this new parenting and this new, or perhaps you're even retiring, by the way, that's another sector of how this 10th house works. It might be you're planning for your retirement. To pull this off, you have to take care of all the logistics when it comes to your reputation, your social media, your advertising, your campaigning, your public, appearance. You have to really cross your T's and dot your I's when it comes to public perception. You've got to have that down, okay? But remember, Mercury's going to retrograde through this space 3 times, so you'll have the opportunity to edit. You won't be set in stone. You got to tie your reputation into your marriage and your partnerships. And by the way, Scorpio's marriage and partnerships are not high enough at the current state to support this new career. So that means that relationships have to run cooler and smoother and more efficiently, that they cannot have too much friction, that they have to be aligned. Your marriages and partnerships have to be aligned with your intention. They cannot be a drag on your intention, and you have to transform marriage and partnership. And you have to tie that into your intellectual property and your plans. So your plans, your attitude, basically, your intellectual property, this has to be in alignment with your marriage. This has to be in alignment with your place in the world. So place in the world, the way you think about the world and your partnerships. Place in the world, the way you think about your world and your partnerships. This must all work as one unit with the grand trine on Earth for Scorpios to have their personal dreams come true in career, legacy, retirement, or leaving their mark on the world. Sagittariuses are creating a new life path when it comes to their life path and their purpose. This is you finding, what is your story? What do you really want your story to be? And Sagittarius are all about the story. So it's like when, in a morbid way, think about your funeral. What's the story they tell? That's the vision that you are working on, is the story you're going to tell. What is the story you're going to tell? What is going to be your place in the universe? What is going to be your purpose? Why were you born to live? All right. That's ultimately what Sagittarius are asking. And Sagittarius always come from a lot of potentials because you're Jupiter, you're 1,000 options, but this would be your favorite option. So I want you to know it's choosing your favorite. And of course you have to face your fears, and your fears would be, you're no expert. You don't have the education. You haven't studied for this. You have no experience. Who the hell are you to say this is your life when you've never done it before? Those are the types of fears I expect to come up for Sagittariuses. Now, to make that happen, you got to be detailed and meticulous and on point with your career, your parenting, your retirement plans, your legacy, your leadership. You got to have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted when it comes to career, legacy, stuff like that. That's got to run like clockwork. But remember, Mercury will go over that space 3 times. So you have 3 drafts of how you focus your career. And it won't be until the sun is way into Virgo before you're very clear on that. So it's, as far as the career part, that'll come. You have to tie that into your lifestyle and your performance. Your lifestyle has too much drag. You need better tools to get more done with less effort. You need to find more efficient ways of living in your life, more efficient ways of eating, more efficient ways of getting the details done. Because if you don't learn how to do more for less, you're going to find your lifestyle breaking down, that you're not going to be able to keep up with all the demands. And you have to tie this into money and income. So you have to, this life purpose has to make money. It has to be in alignment with your career. It has to be in alignment with your lifestyle, and it has to be in alignment with your ability to make money and have money for retirement. So this purpose has to make sense, basically, is what this grand trine Earth is saying, that it has to make sense in your daily routines and your career goals and your ability to make money. But perhaps you already knew that, Sagittarius. Capricorns are transforming everything in their life. So this is a vision to change your life. And that's sort of a wild spot. So that means you could be changing your life. Your marriage could be changing. Your career could be changing. Your relationship to kids, maybe you're an empty nester now, like everything could be changing. Or maybe you are just so sick of the way life is that you're creating a vision for how you want things to change, that you want all those things to change. And of course, you have to face the fears of change, which is being uncomfortable, being uncertain, not necessarily knowing how the outcome ahead of time, which Capricorns hate it when there's not a business plan, when it's not necessarily purely planned and guaranteed. But you are ultimately transforming And you're also transforming intimacy. This is Capricorns getting willing to get closer than they have before. And I have some empirical evidence in life of talking to Capricorns where they are finally letting down that shield and finally letting people in close to where you could be destroyed. So what is intimacy, Capricorn? They're so close they could destroy you. Okay, like that's what intimacy really is. And they won't because they love you, but they could. So to make that transformation happen, one, you got to be on top of what your purpose is. Where are you headed? Where's the story going? Where's the journey going to be? What will be the story at your funeral that they say? What is your purpose in going that direction in the first place? You got to be basically meticulous about your purpose. You also have to be connected to your personal dreams. And here's the thing. This is an area where Capricorns have shortchanged themselves, is that you haven't allowed your dreams to be high enough. You haven't allowed yourself to want more before. And usually you haven't followed the heart. You followed obvious, like security, money, retirement, but not personal dreams. Like I want to be a guitar player, or I want to, travel the world. So you got to let your personal dreams move on a higher level, and you must transform your character. If you're going to become a guitar player and you were a stockbroker yesterday, obviously you're going to change your character. You're going to change what you do. So you have to unite who your character is, what your dreams are, and what your purpose is. But again, with the earth signs, this is pretty guaranteed, because if you alter your purpose, your dreams, and your character, you change. So again, like all earth signs, I think we're going to see profound change in Capricorns, and we may not recognize what they look like, particularly in 2 years once Pluto is well and out of your sign. Aquariuses are creating a long-term new vision for marriage, partnership, and self-mastery. If you're already in a marriage, then this is you becoming a ninja. This is you becoming a master of your craft. If you're not in a marriage, well, then I think you're trying to get partnerships down, or it could be business partnerships that are down. So it's a new vision for partnerships. You'll have to face your fears. And I know what your fear is, Aquarius. Your fear is being controlled, losing your independence, not being able to do what the hell you want to do. These are some of the fears I expect to come up for Aquariuses in order to be engaged, literally engaged in a marriage or partnership, or on the path of self-mastery, that you're going to have to, really burn the calories to make that happen. What you have to unite with the grand trine is, one, changing your boundaries. That's the biggest one. You got to be anal retentive about your boundaries, what you will open up to, what you won't open up to, who you let in, who you don't let in. Where's the line? Where do you draw the line? How far do you draw the line from the person? So really anal retentive about boundaries. Remember, this is the Mercury retrograde space. So you're going to have 3 drafts of boundaries before you get it right. You have to tie in your boundaries with your home life and feeling secure and feeling grounded. And the way you nurture yourself is not high enough. So you're not going to be able to pull off this marriage change unless you are much more of a taking care of your baby, the toddler in you, the one that wants to break down and cry and just throw it all up to God and say, screw it. You have to innovate your emotional foundation, basically, and how will you care for yourself if you're going to be able to pull off these long-term partnerships. And you have to also change your boundaries around faith in God and fate, that you might have not thought it was fate before, but now you think it's fate, or you once thought tragedy was in your fate, and now you close the door on that, and you shut out the idea that tragedy is your fate, or you shut out the idea that you're going to die young. So you have to coordinate your boundaries, your home family foundation, how you care for your feelings, and how you deal with fate and faith for you to be able to pull off these partnerships and marriage. So it's very much invisible, all the things you have to face, your emotions, your boundaries, and your faith in order to get that long-term partnership on the right path. And then we have the Pisces. Pisces are creating a new vision for daily work and routines. So creating a new routine, a new way of life, a new lifestyle, a new vision for life. That would mean living happy. That would mean living healthy. That would mean living in a joy versus in sorrow and karma. And with Saturn in your sign, you are being called to let go of your karma. So please know it can be done. You can be happy every day and live that life. For this to happen, you have to face your fears, which may be unemployment or health issues, or fears around, the machine blowing up in front of in your face, or the technology not working for you to get that transformation of lifestyle. So you'll have to face fears of things going wrong, basically, for this to happen. But for this to happen, and the grand trine, you have to be very detailed in your relationships. So Mars in Virgo and Mercury in Virgo is like, get very meticulous about your relationships, who you're connected to, what your promises are, what your promises aren't. You may have to rework a relationship 3 times to get it just right, so it's supporting this new routine. So you got to get your partner, your wife, or your husband on board with this, or your business partner on board with this. Uranus means you've got to innovate the way you think. You got to get your mind out of the past, your mind out of the gutter, your mind out of certain negative assumptions or negativity. Your mind must be high vibration and half full versus half empty, basically. And then you have to also tie this into your reputation in the world, that you're not going to be the same person in the world. People aren't going to know you the same way they knew you. People aren't going to understand what's happening. So you have to line up your partnerships, your plans, your intellect, and your plans for reputation. This is what has to be lined up in the grand trine, working together: partnership, attitude, communication, and basically your strategy. And if that happens, if those line up, basically what could bring down the new lifestyle would be a partner, or bad thinking, or expectations of who you are, who you're not in the world. Those would be what could bring you down. But if those are united towards this new lifestyle change, then by golly, Pisces are going to make it. All right. So that concludes our tea time portion of the show. And I have done it faster than ever. I now want to do a quick little interview with someone. We're going to take a 1-minute break to sort of change things and bring our guest on. So please hang around. We'll do a 1-minute countdown here. And when I come back, I will introduce you to a fabulous Leo who is on the path and may share some of her own personal stuff about what this means for her. We'll be right back after this 1-minute break.
All right.
And here we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first Astro Mingle segment. And this was a brainchild of mine a long time ago. So talk about something I've been wanting to do, which is to talk about other leaders in our industry and other parts of our industry of doing light work. May I welcome Aliana Kali. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Super excited to be here.
It's great to be here too. And I'll just be flat out honest. I'm so happy that you're here. This was totally spontaneous. You got a reading a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, oh my God, you've got to talk to my subscribers, and you got to talk to them right now. And the reason is because Aliana has this, she's in marketing, and she specifically focuses on the marketing of basically spiritual practitioners. How would you coin your focus in marketing?
You know, it's interesting. Labels really don't do it justice. I like to call them spiritual creatives. What it means is basically anyone who's creating anything from the heart. In Sirius Joy language, that would be somebody who's creating the Golden Egg Project. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And before I even knew about Sirius Joy or the Golden Egg or anything. So it's interesting how our universes collided.
It's perfect, actually. I love it. And you're glowing like a fabulous Leo. You're a Leo. What step number are you? I can't remember.
I'm a Libra sun, I believe, and I don't know much about astrology, but my sun is in Libra, but my ascendant.
Oh, I thought you. Forgive me.
My ascendant and my rising are in Leo.
Is so Leo. That's my confusion.
That explains it.
Forgive me.
No.
But so you have the Leo glow about you, and you have the Leo mane, the fabulous hair. That's what I was going to compliment.
Thank you.
Sometimes I think I'm a Leo too, and I have a Taurus with Leo rising, so I live more on my Leo side.
Believe it or not, my hair is actually really fine and flat, and I spend quite a bit of time and energy and attention just kind of trying to make it, a little bit bigger, but it's not.
Me too, honey. Me too. But I think what's interesting about Leo rising is all about image and perception and the way you're seeing, which is basically, the core of what marketing is. take us into your career path, because I think your career path in itself speaks to the industry you serve, that you were once in the mundane of money, right?
Yes, absolutely. So my story is I basically was in a really tough situation when I was a teenager, and I had to make money to take care of myself and my family. And as a kid, I was more interested in arts and creative things and the meaning of life and that sort of thing. I was like a sensitive kid. So, I just switched that off and turned into like this business-minded person just to try to survive, I guess. And I kept trying to create from a wounded place, right? I tried to create from my ego over and over and over and over. And when I finally achieved what I wanted to achieve, which is, I had a couple of successful businesses, I was very well paid as an independent marketing consultant. I did that for many years. Everything on paper sounded great, but I was so out of alignment with it. I had a lot of rejection about spirituality. I actually used to be this like really hardcore atheist, and I just rejected anything that was connected to the heart. I was so afraid of being hurt. So it was a huge transition to let go of that and slowly kind of open up to something that I judged for the longest time. But, I recognized as I was talking to all of these CEOs and marketing executives and consulting them, and I realized that the ones that I had a connection with, I was able to tell them the truth, my truth, more openly. And I realized I was out of alignment because I was working with people that I was not aligned with. I was doing work that I was not always aligned with. It's not necessarily unethical, just not coming from the heart. Like, it's nothing personal. It's just not, my heart is not lighting up to the work, but I was still doing it for the money. And I noticed the difference in performance and the difference in working with these people versus these people. And that kind of, opened up this thing where I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to tell somebody else to speak their truth and to follow their truth, then in order for me to be in alignment and integrity with myself, I have to be the one to do that first. And I realized I was working behind the scenes, and I didn't want to build a personal brand because I felt it was I judged it as this narcissistic thing that's like, who are you to take up space? I had huge visibility issues. I did not like seeing myself on camera. I did not want to hear my voice. I thought I was stupid. I thought I had nothing of value to say, even though I had been, highly paid for over a decade. Like, I just did not feel, no matter what I achieved, I never really felt like whatever feeling I was going after, which is really just a feeling of completeness and self-love and self-worth. So I kind of had to take a step back there and be like, okay, branding and marketing tells you to look at the market first, and then who does the market want me to be? But my approach is the opposite, is like, who are you first? And who do you want to be in the world? And what did you come here to create? What is your gift? What is your message? And then from that place, how can we find something that's has market resonance, that the market would want to pay money for without changing the truth of your message? Because when you lead yourself, when you create this vision, there are tons of people who are waiting for you to lead yourself so that they can be led through your brand and through your business. So I take a completely different approach now to how I help individuals. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a lot in one breath too.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, I just love talking.
The Libra is showing when you said you didn't want to be a hypocrite. So that proved your sign right there. So honor that. What was your heart yearning for? Because I think your own story is really perfect for this moment, because I think a lot of people right now are where you were, in that they're doing the 9 to 5 and they're showing up for what they want. And you were saying that you felt more authentic. It's almost like, I find that when you're following your heart, you have more energy. When you're in the wrong place, it's like work is so much harder. Finishing the job, right?
100%. I actually, it got to a point, and this is how this all started, is I, for years, knew that there was something that wanted to be created through me, or a message that wanted to be said through me. And I didn't know what it was, and I was refusing to look at it. I was still pursuing achievement and all that thing. And I got to a point where on paper, everything was great, but I wasn't happy, like I was telling you. And there was this one day, I remember it was like a Friday afternoon, when a client sent me this little request that wouldn't even take 15 minutes. And it was still within business hours, but I was so tired. Like, I was dragging my hands. Something that would take somebody else 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it was taking me an hour or 10 hours. And by the way, if you're a spiritual creative, if you're at a point where you have to create your golden egg and your spirit is telling you that you have to create it, you have to go for it, and you don't, you are going to feel as though the life force is leaving your body. Like, your spirit is just being sucked out of you anytime you do anything that's not the thing that you're supposed to be pursuing. that you're saying no to because your ego is not listening to your heart, right? Your ego is not being a servant of your heart. It's trying to, it is more concerned with appearing a certain type of way than to face the fears, the pains, and be courageous for your heart, which is what your heart needs and wants. So
Yes.
yeah,
Well
like
said.
yeah.
It's like I'm talking to myself here in female form. I love it. Let me roll back to when you said you were afraid to go on camera, you were afraid to do these things that your new job requires. Did your heart secretly want that and you were afraid of it? Or did you have to talk yourself into things you didn't want? Okay, that Leo rising wanted it.
I judged it so much that I denied it even to myself. Okay, so I remember as a kid, I really loved like showmanship. When I was a kid, people would come to our house and I would try to entertain them. I loved to dance. I loved to sing. I had lots of like these kinds of interests. And I just really loved seeing people happy and excited and connected to their hearts. Was and still is, and will I'll probably always be a very passionate person. So, I wanted that, but then being in a really tough situation, I had a very difficult childhood, a very traumatic early life. When I was 17 or 18, I was like, okay, I have to shut this side of myself off because I need to be strong. I need to protect myself. And I can't want these things. I can't pursue these things. I can't do that. I shouldn't do that. I have bigger, more important responsibilities and things to look at. And quite frankly, it was like, where is this coming from? This desire to be seen. We all have it. It's not that some people want to be seen and some people don't. It's not that I want to be famous. Like, that's not the point. The point is I want to be seen in my fullness. I was tired of hiding who I was to myself and to other people. I was tired of feeling like I had to create different personas and characters and suppress some parts of myself for fear of being the odd one out, or being misunderstood or judged, or sounding stupid or making a mistake or upsetting someone or doing the wrong thing. I had lots of fears and judgments. It was very clear to me eventually that, okay, I have a message that I want to share. I can't keep playing small for what I want to create. I need to show up. I need to show my face. And I honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't like myself. I loved myself, but I didn't like myself. I did not like how I was. And I was like, you know what? I'm still going to show myself the way whatever I don't like while I'm working on the things that I don't like. And it's okay to admit that, because you can absolutely love yourself without liking certain characteristics about yourself. It doesn't mean that you're rejecting yourself. We have to be honest. Hey, I don't like this, but I'm going to work on it. But it doesn't diminish anything from me and how much I love myself. So it was a very long process of healing and, reflecting and, sitting with a cringe and accepting how infinitely cringy I am. Like so many things that I had to work through. And now I just, honestly, it's crazy. Like, I'm sitting here and having this comfortable conversation with you because you have to understand, I did not even want to have meetings with clients. Like I picked my clients, the types of people who did not want to be on a call all the time. Yeah.
Wow. And was your change, so you basically you came out of the closet. You're like, okay, I'm not happy in my job. I want to be fabulous. I want to go back to being fabulous. And really what you're saying is authenticity. You're saying that the path of the heart is when you are your most authentic self and there's the least amount of hiding, where you can just be yourself and not make any apologies for it. Did you transform your business overnight? Did you do it gradually over time? What was that transformation from capital to soul capital like?
I wouldn't recommend it, but it was definitely what I needed. I completely I wouldn't say destroyed, but I went for destruction. I went for, I am killing this and starting over. Creation happens in 3 stages. You should probably know, like creation, sustaining, maintenance, or sustaining it. And then the destruction is part of that creation cycle. And I knew that the amount of energy was going to take me to shift from this to that, and the temptation and the coziness of comfort meant that I was too drained. I got to a point, like what I was explaining to you earlier, I was too drained. And I was like, okay, I need to scale things down. I cannot be continuing on this path, growing, getting more clients or anything. I need to stop this, just do the base minimum. If the client goes, we cut down our expenses, my husband and I, to a crazy amount. We had to move. We made lots of sacrifices in order to live on a lot less and let go of the clients that were draining me. It was a gradual process, right? I had to do so many tiny changes, and I started a whole new business and a different brand, different name, different everything, because I really wanted to start on a clean slate. And also I was dealing with a different kind of clientele. You have to understand, like, the people I was working with before, they used to be these $5 to $25, $50 million a year businesses. And I shifted to people who are just starting out, solopreneurs, small business. Well, these are small businesses too, believe it or not, in comparison to other businesses, but much smaller businesses that are just starting out, that are like just starting out, or, you know, maybe they have products and services they're selling, they're consistent, maybe they're even like set multiple 6, 7, whatever, and multiple 8 figures, whatever it is. But I don't have like a niche that I'm like, okay, I only work with this group of people from this industry, or I only work with people who are making X amount of money. I don't like limiting myself in that way. I'm at least the only marketer I know who says that it's like, you don't have to limit yourself in that way, you know, and yeah. So it was so big that the change was so big that I had to
rip off the Band-Aid. You basically just started.
Rip off the Band-Aid. I continued taking on projects here and there and marketing and things like that until things started, picking up.
Picking up. So what got you onto this idea of spiritual entrepreneurs or spiritual creatives? That's quite a niche, really, especially when there's not really a market out there other than the Catholic Church, you know?
Yeah, I think that when we are creating things like these, and you know, what you call a golden egg, or, you know, creating as a spiritual creative, as a creator who's creating from a connection to spirit, to your own spirit, you're really creating something that's ahead of its time. You are creating, like you always talk about it, right? The innovative part. You're creating something that's ahead of its time, and you have to understand, when you're creating something new, people are not going to get it. You're going to be the first one to, or amongst the first people who understand it. And I always like to say that the spiritual creators are kind of like, they have an inner artist and an inner business mind, and they're trying to combine these two things at the same time.
Yes.
And the inner artist, which has nothing to do with the quote unquote creative industries, by the way, but we are all creatives anyway. That inner artist is really driven by taking a risk on ideas and investing in ideas, and being one of the first people to say, I am investing in this idea, like a stockbroker, like an investor is investing, you know, in a stock. That's exactly how it works. Or a business person is investing in a business idea. You're taking a chance on your point of view, on your perspective, on your truth, and saying, I believe in this. And then you're watching to see when people are going to catch up, and that's going to take a little bit of time. And people may not get it in your lifetime. That's why I believe it's important to learn the principles of marketing that I do, because it teaches you how to sell it. Once you learn all the rules of the game, then you can choose which rules you want to follow and which rules you want to break. But you have to first understand the rules of this game that you're playing. And if you have that spiritual creative in you, and that artist in you, that you have that creative side, but you don't know how to do your marketing in a way that's aligned with your truth, or you're business minded, you know how to do marketing, but you don't know who you are and what your truth is and what your message is and what your spirit is telling you, you're always going to have a missing piece. And I want people to connect these two parts of themselves.
That's brilliant. I find that we have a golden egg show I do once a month, or almost every once a month, where my own subscribers come on and they pitch creative ideas, and I look in their chart to see where they're blocked or whatever. In most cases, I find that, and this is even when hiring people too, that you have these people who are super good at the creative, but they don't know any of the business, or they're super good in the business, but they're afraid of being creative. It seems like we don't wear both hats. I happen to wear both to some degree because I'm a Leo and a Taurus. So we were profitable from the beginning of my spiritual idea. But when I went to marketing firms, they didn't know what the F to do with us. They had no clue. They felt dumbfounded, and we were paying their premiums and we were paying the prices that they didn't know how to offer. So one thing I found fascinating in talking to you and your reading was just like, oh my God, here's someone specializing in this, because it seems like our industry is a little challenged than other advertising industries. And I always give this classic example that we have 3 sales to do. We have to sell them into first caring about themselves, which most human beings don't right now. Then you have to convince them that you're the person for the answer to their problem. And then you have to spend some money on yourself and buy the product. So to me, it's like a triple whammy. What do you see as the fundamental differences between classic marketing and creative, what's the word? Creative spiritual marketing.
Spiritual creative, or like
spiritual creative.
Heart-centered marketing for people who are following their hearts. The difference is, well, mainstream marketing, as you pointed, doesn't care about your message, your truth, your heart. It's not because it's mean or bad. It's just, it's concerned with things, with other things, right? We're talking about a completely different state of consciousness, operating from different places with different priorities, different values, different worldview, different understanding of our reality. If you're following that paradigm of we are separated and this is a zero-sum game and there's a pie in the market and I have to eat this piece of the pie and how am I going to niche down and put people through a funnel and force them to go, through this quote unquote customer journey. And you're having all this like strategizing taken to the extreme. It's really all just being out of balance. It's the mind is being out of balance. The ego is being out of balance. The emotions are out of balance. I love using the status of awareness in my own, like naming my own process. It helps me also kind of like, explain it to people. So, mainstream marketing is just concerned with what's the easiest, fastest way that's going to make us money. With you as a heart-centered person, as a spiritual creative or conscious creator, you have to take into account that artist that I talked about. What is your truth? What is your message? What is your purpose? What is your passion? What makes you feel alive? What brings you joy? What is perfection to you? And what does your heart really wish for? And not, what do I think is possible for me based on XYZ factors, So that's one side of marketing, mainstream marketing, that doesn't take into account. And they just like look at you like you have 5 heads if you talk to them about these things. Obviously, there's also the hustle and the push. And this is another big component. It doesn't think about the journey. It doesn't take, the biggest factor I found when I created these marketing strategies for these businesses, the biggest factor that determined if they're going to be successful or not is if the tasks were in alignment with the nature of the person who is executing them. You can have the best marketing plan, but if you give it to someone who does not want to follow those specific steps, they're going to struggle and you can't blame them. All right? Like you have to give yourself and other people, if you have people on your team, the tasks that are aligned with their nature, the things that are part of the path of least resistance. And listen, there is always a way to get what your heart wants in alignment with your heart. So if you want to get clients, you don't have to go send DMs to people and like being slimy and doing salesy things. You do not have to do that. I never send a message I don't even follow up with people. Like I don't follow up. If somebody wants to work with me and they don't call me back or don't schedule, I don't bother them, let alone go to a stranger and send them like a desperate message or annoying message like, hey, remember me? Like, why do that? You don't have to do that. Your heart is telling you like, I don't like being rejected. Mainstream marketing will tell you, well, just accept it. And I will tell you, no, don't accept it because your heart is too precious. And I know people who don't understand this will roll their eyes and laugh. I don't care. I'm not going to put myself through that situation. Why would I? There's an abundance of buyers, of people who all you have to do is know your value, own your value, and know how to articulate it. And if you can do that, if you have something of value, which I believe you do, but you just learn how to articulate it in a way that is resonant with people, that does this matchmaking between your message, your gift, and what they believe their problems and desires are, you connect them, you connect it as a solution. If you just do that and you put it in front of the right people and you show up from the right energy consistently enough, I promise you, people are going to be interested. But there are lots of other things that we don't talk about in mainstream marketing. We don't talk about how important it is to instill this joyful productivity process so that the person enjoys doing the marketing, because the energy that you're creating marketing from makes a huge difference in what you end up attracting,
Yes, agreed.
These things we just don't talk about them in mainstream marketing. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, mainstream market. There's nothing about law of attraction in mainstream marketing at all. It's more like the law of beating down the door. Like it's like, and they give you like, if they need to see it 5 times before they're convinced. And I'm thinking to myself, I think they would have kind of known in the first or second that they didn't like me. Like it didn't take 5 times. Like I'm not going to convince somebody after 5 times, like, oh, maybe he isn't a jerk. Maybe I will, but law of attraction is part of it as well. I can't concur enough as far as, the right person on the right job and then a heart is fulfilled. Like, so if the marketing company's not into it, if they're not excited about your product, I learned that right away.
They're not going to give you good work. That's exactly why I'm saying like the energy is so important, because it's not just about what you do, it's about who you are being while you're doing it. And
Yes.
the person is not being their highest self while in it, not working in alignment with their true nature while they're doing it, the effort they're going to put in, the effect is just not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same as somebody who's creating something that they're genuinely interested in and joyful about. It just isn't. And even if you put like aside law of attraction, all these things, like if we had enough time, I would be explaining this in why that would happen. Like there is a logical reasoning why this happens, you know, and anybody can test this in their own life. When you're working on something, when you're in a state of flow, when you're in the state of joy, what you end up creating, not only is your experience better, but we end up creating it always ends up being a lot better, a higher quality than, that's why it's part of the practice that I do, is that, you know, making sure that it's joyful. The plan is joyful. Yeah.
I completely agree. And tying that joy to the plan and tying that joy to the marketing, and finding people. I agree also that speaking what you're passionate about is very infectious. I think that's been my only secret to how far I've come, is just that I'm very transparent about how I'm a total dork and I love this stuff and I let my joy shine. I think people really, sometimes people don't even believe in it. They're just attracted to the energy alone, I found, because they want that same joy in their life. What are just some basic mistakes as we sort of wrap this interview up? It's going by so quickly. What are some junior mistakes you find spiritual creatives making when they get started?
Sure. A few mistakes that come to mind, the biggest ones. One is not being clear on what their non-negotiables are. So you have to know, any artist, any creative, any spiritual person needs to know, this golden egg, this creation that I want to create from the heart, what are the components that I'm not willing to compromise on? And those things you have to be clear on from the beginning. Everything else you can get to be flexible with the market. You know, if you don't care too much, it's okay. Give the market what it wants. But once you do that and you identify which parts you own as yourself, those things are non-negotiable. The second thing is confusing themselves with the brand, or thinking that they are the brand. You are not the brand. The brand is just a two-dimensional reflection of the person who is delivering the service, the product, whatever it is. It is not who you are, okay? And you have to develop a very solid sense of self-worth and self-love in the process as you're doing it, because otherwise you end up wanting to create an identity from the audience as opposed to looking within yourself. The third thing I would say is a lot of them tend to have, and this is true for people especially who have a lot of trauma, is that you'll find that you create these big dreams as a way to escape reality. And people who, and they're real dreams, they really want to create these things, but everything that they do, all the actions that they take, if to get from here to here, there are 10 steps, they're looking at the last 5 steps and they're applying the last 5 steps, and they're too busy doing the right things, but at the wrong time. So instead of doing the first 5 steps, they're doing the last 5 steps, and they're working really hard, and they're like, why am I not getting anywhere? Why am I frustrated, putting all this effort, posting all the time, doing all these things, and I'm not getting anywhere? When there are other smaller, more immediate, more important things, basics that have not been nailed. So it's important to have a big vision and think as long-term as you want. My vision for Brands Are Alive is not only in my lifetime, is after I'm gone, but when it comes to taking action, it only happens in 24-hour compartments, here and now. So you have, if you're not acting on it today, if you're not taking an action today that's moving you forward, your plan is not going to get you where you want to go. I have lots of things that I could give to a beginner, but I'll just stop with these, because like you, I have a tendency to just go on about the things I love. So
Me too. You're my Leo rising soul sister on that one. I have to say, I agree. I love your point about people are not being fully honest about their pain, or aware of their pain, in the sense that people go into these big visions of how they're going to create utopia, and it was a way to escape their pain. That's how I started, actually, in full honesty. I was motivated to because I didn't want to live the life my parents lived. It was a negative. And what happened is I found that once I overcame that obstacle, I didn't have motivation.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. You get out of survival. You're like, okay, what now?
So it's like, okay, I'm not my parents. Now what? Like, what am I in this for? So I had this moment in my mid 40s where I was like, why am I doing this again? Like, I had to be reunited with that flame. And I agree, like, there has to be something you're doing right now if you're not taking an action right now. So you would say it's really the action beneath your feet. Now, to get a little bit more about you and your services, because I'm sure I want to have you on right away, because it's the 40 days of self-love. People are they're making this Aliana moment in their life right now. Right. And they're being encouraged to by me week after week. You don't just do marketing per se. You actually are a hybrid. You're like a life coach for spiritual creatives.
Kind of.
I don't want to give you a label. You use your own labels.
I do coaching, but I'm not a coach. That's what I always say. I do a lot of coaching in what I do, but I'm not a coach, as in like, it's not my profession, a coach. I guess what you could say, it's a hybrid of marketing, brand and marketing strategy / self-expression coaching / somebody who helps you build your brand and create a system and process. It's a marketing practice and process of marketing. So it's not like I'm just dumping at you, here's everything you need to do. Let's define some marketing goals. I want to get this many clients. I want to have this many, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This is the brand that I want. No, I want to help you get clarity, first of all, inner clarity. And then I want to help you get clarity about your message, about your brand, about its essence and all of that good stuff. And then we move to creating the content, coming up with ideas. The entire process of you expressing yourself, and in the process of pursuing that, of building that brand, of putting out your message out there and your marketing out there, you are going to face, well, not you, but somebody who's in this position is going to face, parts of themselves that are telling them, no, get back to safety. You can't really do this. Who are you? Visibility issues, lack of self-worth, imposter syndrome, et cetera, doubts, all of that stuff that we all know happens. And that's where, the quote unquote coaching or guidance comes in. It's a lot of spiritual work, but I'm very heavy on practice, on skills, on teaching people skills. I don't want to just give them a marketing strategy. I want to give them a marketing strategy and teach them how to be a better marketer for themselves so that they can have this skill. So no matter what they do in the future, they can do it themselves. They can be like, you know what, here's my goal. I know what marketing initiatives are going to get me here. I know what the easiest 1, 2, 3 things I'm going to do. I only have 1 or 2 hours a day. I'm going to focus my attention on this, and I'm going to get there by this date. So it's a lot of that, left-brained experience that I had. I'm really glad, because it came in very handy for this kind of work. So it's a more holistic way, but the core of what I do is helping people build what I call a brand of full self-expression. A brand of full self-expression is a business that's centered around your core, and it has you as the most visible part of it, because you have a message to share. It's around your golden egg, essentially.
That's brilliant. I love it. And I think it's where we're all going. I think it's the essence. What you're doing is the essence of what will save capitalism and give birth new life into productization and corporate America in particular. If corporations just had a soul,
yeah, right.
But if you have these spiritual creatives who are creating, profitability around expressing their true authenticity, then you have a very powerful competitive market there in the world, because now what is competing is not like someone's chocolate. What's competing is someone's bright essence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's challenging other people to live on the same level. So I think it's great work you're doing.
Thank you.
How can people get in touch with you and perhaps sign up? We actually have a QR code up here for you, but tell us more.
Sure. So it's funny you mentioned the soul. My website is brandsArealive.com. And if you subscribe to my weekly email, which is called Mojo, you'll find it at brandsArealive.com/Mojo. You can get a free starter kit, which has 4 videos and 3 how-to guides that will help you get started with building your brand of full self-expression. I send 1 email per week. Sometimes I don't send it, so I don't spam people with too many emails. So subscribe to that. You'll get the starter kit, and you'll get a weekly video from me to help you build a brand of full self-expression. Yeah. And they can connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
And on LinkedIn, which is actually where she reached out to me. Is like, hey, are you doing readings yet? And I was like, no, but since you asked.
I know about you. I saw you in 2011, I think, on YouTube. And that was like the atheist period for a long time. And then fate would have it, we met again. And at this point, I was already on the path and whatever. And yeah, and been on subscribed to Sirius Joy for at least a year and a half, and learned the step system is brilliant. It really is. It's I mean, I've put it to test, and yeah.
Well, I'd love to have another deeper dive with you about maybe the step approach in marketing, for instance, and maybe marketing goes through certain steps. That'd be a great collab.
How do you apply it? Yeah. How do you apply that to your golden egg project? I would love that.
Okay, well then I'm going to consider that a potential future date to be online again in a future interview and a follow-up. Thank you for your time tonight. And thank you for everything you're doing for light workers out there. We've always needed someone like you because we tend to be all creative and not very practical. And you're a wonderful hybrid of both. So you're solving problems for people. I know people are going to sign up and follow you. And I'm going to watch I'm going to sign up and get those videos too and reach out to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, have a lovely weekend. Happy 40 days to you. And we'll see you around soon. Thank you, Aliana.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Ciao for now.
Ciao.
All right. Well, that went wonderful. I was just delighted. That was our first episode of Astro Mingle. And thank you all. I love the comments. I was reading comments the whole time too. So we'll incorporate questions in there. So I guess it's time for our little wrap up here. Once again, we here at Sirius Joy, I'm really happy to hear Aliana was a subscriber. That's actually why we brought her on the show, but she spoke to it herself. It's like the step system. It's a methodology that can transform your life. So if you want to live your dream, come on down to Sirius Joy. Give us a try for $3.99. You will not be disappointed. We have a lot going on. Currently, I want to point out there, we have what we call the Mega Monthlies. This is a monthly report, the Mega Monthlies. That go into each of the 12 signs and what's happening down. We're doing Finding Your Inner Merlin is our theme of our Mega Monthlies. So if you sign up for Sirius Joy, go straight to the Mega Monthlies tab, click on your A story and your B story. That's your sun sign and your rising sign, and get some help on how each of the signs is going through this 40 days and what the Venus retrograde means for you. That's the Mega Monthlies on Sirius Joy. We also this week have our self-study hall. That's our live group conversation that happens on Wednesdays. We have this week our self-study hall with Robbie Hunt, and she is focusing on actually Soul Support Group is the name of the show. Self-study hall is Robbie's show. I get all my little SS's confused. And in the self-study hall, Robbie takes on 3 subscribers and we look at their chart. And just like I show a chart up here during the show, she goes through your chart on camera. This week, she's talking about the power of your ascendant or your rising. So some backstory on ascendant and risings. And then she's going to answer an astrological question for each of our subscribers. So for you, those who are astro nuts out there and love to learn astrology, we have a show every month that dives deep with Robbie Hunt. It will go live this Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And there's a chat room for our subscribers to chat just like we are here tonight. So come on down. Thank you, Robbie. It's going to be a great show. Sharing is caring. We do ask, the greatest thing you can do for us is to share Namaste today with your friends and family and tell people about this free show. I have been free on YouTube for 17 years. If you don't know, I was the first astrologer giving astrological advice on YouTube in 2006 when YouTube debuted. And the best thing you can do to give back is to simply share with other people. People are ready to know it, and you're doing everyone a service. Thank you for caring, and thank you for sharing. It's the greatest gift you can give us. Some people do like to make donations, which I completely honor. Some people don't want to buy a reading. They don't want to necessarily subscribe. Someone said to me today that they don't want to donate in the super chat because then everyone knows that you donated. So if you want to donate to me, we do accept donations. It's paypal.me/Sensei Christopher. Now, perhaps you want to hang out after the show. We have this great group in our chat right now, but come join our Facebook group where you can post and interact. We also invite anyone who is a current light worker or a spiritual creative, as Aliana put it. If you're a spiritual creative and you have a business you want to market, come market in our Sirius Joy Club at siriusjoy.club. You have an audience there that is accepting, that is willing, and our only rules is to be compassionate and not talk politics. So you're not going to get any politics in this room, and you're going to find compassion. So come rub elbows with us in siriusjoy.club. Now, if you'd like to follow us on any of our social media, either my personal social media or our corporate social media, all of our social media links are at siriusjoy.social. That's our link tree. You can also join our email list there as well. And there's also a couple of interviews with me. If you want to hear interviews where I've been interviewed, they're also on this link at siriusjoy.social for all of our links. And then finally, We are available on audio podcast. If you'd like to listen instead of watch, which many people do in the car, some people in the shower, they say, wherever floats your boat. If you want to hear and not pay attention with your eyes, we are on a podcast. We're at Spotify, we're on Stitcher, and we're on Apple Podcasts. Just search Namaste Today and we'll come up. All right, friends. Well, I am so delighted at how well this show has gone down. Knock on wood. We're starting to pull our shift together. We'll be back 1 week from now. We'll have another guest on the air as well with an Astro Mingle following the show. And as always, please know that while you're out there following your dreams, pursuing your golden egg, I will be in this studio covering your Astro. I love you, friends. Until next week, live, love,